Welcome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hollywood on the Rocks. I almost forgot the show. Can't wait for Chris to come back. I'm pretty sure you all wondering what's going on. All I can tell you is Chris is doing much better. And he keeps referencing this note to me saying, allude to nothing. Don't hint at me coming back or not coming back. So my hands are kind of tied. I'll just say that he is doing better. If you follow his Twitter account or Instagram account, he's partying. So we're getting there. But hey, welcome to the show today, Hollywood on the Rocks. We got a special show. Epic Mike is joining us for the whole show. We're going to talk about, as the thumbnail suggests, Dismal Disney. We'll also we'll give you the review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We got a lot more to talk about. We may have some Fall Guy news, some box office news, and a few more. But let's do this. Let's get the show started. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I actually made it on time this time. I went through, I double checked and then triple checked what time zones I was in, and no. So I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks.
I know. I made sure to over communicate. It's 1 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah, you're like, I will see you in 2 hours. I'm like, yeah, 2 hours. All right, I got you.
Well, yeah. Hey, actually, Mike, tell us about yourself. I think this is the first time you and I really are gonna have any kind of a conversation. But
yeah.
Tell us about yourself, and then I'm also interested in Epic Verse Studios.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it brief because I can rant for quite a bit. But yeah, my name's Epic Mike. I'm primarily known as being part of Geeks and Gamers. A lot of people know Jeremy, D-Day Cobra, Ryan Kinnell, a lot of different guys in that community. But yeah, I've been part of that group for a little while. I'm also really good friends with Josiah Rises, and up until recently, I've mostly just been known for my ranting and screaming on the internet. But about 2 years ago, me and my buddy Josiah announced that we were also working on an independent film studio called Epic Verse. And we've been working really hard and really diligently around the clock to put together kind of a portfolio for everybody, so that when we launch officially as a company, we can kind of prove to people that we put the work in ahead of time instead of just asking for money and saying we'll figure it out as we go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's fine. That's a fine way to do things, but I think that happens a lot more often than not, and I think that sometimes breeds failure instead of saying, hey, let's put the work in and let's figure this thing out and make sure we're on the right page, so when we finally step on the stage and are ready to go, we know that we've done the work and done the due diligence to get things started. But yeah, the plan is to launch later this year. We've kind of been having to shuffle things around. We were planning to launch a lot earlier this year than we are going to. But yeah, that's kind of the big focus is just getting back to original storytelling. One of the mantras we use a lot is that storytelling is a fundamental part of the human experience. We've been doing it since we've sitting around in caves, drawing on cave walls, sitting around fires, and then passing down stories of lineages and ideas and concepts and themes. And we just want to get back to that because I feel like good storytelling is kind of becoming a lost art form, which is heartbreaking and tragic, but I know that it kind of goes hand in hand with what we'll be talking about later today. But yeah, I think good storytelling is becoming a lost art form, and we're watching a lot of the old guard either retire or pass away, unfortunately, or the more heartbreaking is become so apathetic about storytelling that they just walk away entirely. And I kind of hate to see that, and I'm hoping that we can one day kind of rekindle that in people and rejuvenate the film industry. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the D-Files, just kind of going over that and seeing how it's the fact that they shoved out all these old veterans who were there from the Disney Renaissance, back with the Little Mermaid, who had learned from the legends from before them, kicked them all out, and had the arrogance to say, hey, the old way is no good anymore, and that we're ushering a new era of storytelling, and we're seeing the results of that right now.
Yeah, I love that the new era of storytelling is to just talk about all the things happening in the world today in a very very poorly. Like, well, we got to reflect modern audiences. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, what?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in modern audiences, not just millennials. Yeah, and not just millennials that live in very specific parts of California and New York. So
yeah, but let's be real. We see ourselves now, and that's the most important thing above all else.
I'm a little disappointed. I don't see a lot of people walking around with afros on television anymore. I think I kind of missed my chance, in the 70s and 60s. So we'll have to get some more representation for afros in there, I guess.
So let me ask you this about the Epicverse, or Epicverse Studios. But what is your approach to storytelling, especially as an independent film company? My assumption is you don't have millions of dollars laying around.
No, we really don't. All of everything we've done so far, like the business model, or at least how we're getting launched and getting started, is we have 6 short films that we put together. We sat down, me and Josiah, and cooked up some story ideas. We said we want to do these 6 stories. And then we also found a couple people that were interested in us helping them tell their stories. We have there's a film company in Kenya that we helped produce a feature film that they did, and a couple other smaller independent creators that have also been working on it. And our goal is just to kind of start small and tell smaller scale stories, but within the confines of a bigger universe. I think for me, one of the issues I see a lot with independents is they get so excited that they can finally make a movie that they kind of swing for the fences, and that's fine until you swing for the fences and then you try to tell a really big scale story that you just don't have the budget for, and then people go, oh, this looks cheap, or this looks lame, or whatever. And I'm like, I think you can tell a really good story if you can keep the scale small but the ideas big. Like I use the example of like Alien. Is a really great example of that. I mean, this confined small spaceship with just a lot of nooks and crannies and stuff, and they tell a story in that's very very moving and very compelling and terrifying. And so yeah, our hope is to kind of get back to that. It's kind of a blend. I think we have a lot of new tools now that have made filmmaking easier for independents. Access to camera equipment, also even how special effects are done and things like that. We have more access ever to do certain things within the film industry, but also using, I think the way we describe it as like time tester traditions. Like stories from old always have worked. People like those stories, and so we want to kind of get back to that. We're telling a lot of original stories. But a lot of them are influenced by movies that we all grew up watching or enjoying and loving. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to get back to using wheels instead of trying to, I don't know, put a square on a vehicle and going, I don't know, maybe I can make this drive. We just want to get back to that, but we also want to try to do it instead of just constantly doing adaptations or sequels or reboots. It's like, let's tell our own ideas and stories, put our best foot forward, and then we'll see what the audience likes and what it doesn't. And that's the other big part of it, is our audience. I think that Hollywood has kind of lost touch with its audience, and one of the goals here is to hear feedback from our audience about, hey, what do you guys like? What do you not like? What do you want to see moving forward? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this property? Do you want to see more of this actor or these actors? Because I think that also will help, because audiences going, hey, here's what we think about this, and here's how we feel about this, can help us pivot and create things that they want to see more of and enjoy more of. So I mean, it's amazing to me how the studios have strayed away from this idea of, the audience is the one who's giving us their money. Why not cater and pander to the audience? Because what we're getting nowadays is just the preaching. It's rather than appealing to the audience that they have, they appeal to the audience that they want. And that's the problem. So I mean, good luck to this Epicverse Studios. I hope you guys make a lot of movies, make a lot of money, to the point where Disney will buy you. Well, I will happily tell them, no, you can't. So, but yeah, I'm definitely hoping to do that. And just as a quick shout out to Film Thread again too. We actually ran into Chris. Oh man, like 6 months ago now. He actually showed up in our state at a con, and we got to meet him, and sit down and have dinner with him. We showed him a couple of the things that we were cooking up, and all he had to say was wow. And for him to be on board with what we're doing is really, that's quite a sign off. So we're pretty excited to keep going with it. So
yeah.
No,
I'm excited too. I think he might have played a thing or two from you guys, and it's like it's amazingly the resources available to you are incredible, and you mentioned it. If you want to make a movie, being able to do that is not as expensive as you think it is.
Yes.
You can go the cheap route and do it on your iPhones, but there are better tools out there. From sound, lighting is cheaper than ever. Editing tools, special effects, even animation all the tools are there, and anyone can make a movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's talk about a few things before we get into. Let's go to the chat real fast. Let me see. Going for some reason, my computer's running real slow. From Lord Thoth, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Sign up as a member. Join us on Discord and Rumble. Yes, from what I'm seeing, the algorithm is hitting everybody, and so whatever you can do to support and help Film Thread and the channel would be greatly appreciated. From Tony G, ever since Chris has been gone, there's been no white representation. Well, I think Paul Chatto came close last week. I think that'll be as close to white representation as we'll get.
I mean, I'm half white, so you got like 50%.
There you go. Yeah. So look, you guys had your time. All right. Patrick Lemire, Disney broke the chain. That's right. Solomon Thornton responding to Patrick Lemire. I can't wait for the day when Iger leaves and someone better takes his place. It has to happen. There's so much stuff we'll talk about when we get to Disney, but there's so many working pieces. It would almost take a miracle for Disney to change course without crashing first.
Yeah.
From Castigan, actually, let me save those for the Disney chat. Aaron Charman again. I want Chris back for more white representation. You know what? You are not working. You are working for the stereotype. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm clicking this next chat and it's not showing up for some reason. Come on, computer.
Got this.
Okay, there we go. Hey, it's me in HD. What did Dante/Verbal Riot do to his hair and grow a fro? Oh, yeah. Did he? Okay. Just kidding. Love Epic Mike. Hail the 199.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and then finally from JJKK. Can't wait for Chris Gore to come back. This channel is getting a little too multicultural, if you know what I mean. Oh boy. You guys. All right, let's talk about the Fall Guy. I asked you saw it not too long ago.
Yeah, I watched it this morning actually. Yeah.
So give me your initial impressions on the Fall Guy.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised at how much I enjoyed the film. It's obviously there's some obvious bait there, like with the music and stuff. They're really trying to evoke a certain feeling. But one of the things that I very much appreciate and I think is important, and I love about this movie is that it does put a spotlight on stunt people and how much work that they do. I don't think it goes far enough. I think it could have done a little bit more for them, but I appreciate that they really do put stunt people on a pedestal and say, hey, without these guys, your movies don't look as cool. You don't get to have as much fun. There's a romantic angle there, which is fine. It works for what it services the story. But the idea about just stunt people and how difficult it can be and how dangerous it can be, but also how awesome these guys really are at what they do, I think is one of the things I really liked about this movie. And having worked on films myself, and having a really awesome stunt guy that I've worked with, a couple different stunt people I've worked with, those guys are amazing at what they do. And they really don't get the love that they deserve. And so I also appreciated the marketing of this film, where you had Ryan Gosling doing like a lot of stunt work, and they had like stunt people doing all kinds of crazy like gimmicks and stuff on the red carpet. To me, that kind of stuff is awesome. But at the same time, my criticism of it is it's obviously there's a little bit of baiting there, and it's very much if you don't know how Hollywood works, you won't get how important this film is. And I think that makes it kind of difficult to resonate with certain audience members, you know. And so then you have to kind of rely on the story, and the story's not perfect. It's fine. The story's very tropey. Been told before, but I was entertained for the most part. So
All right. Hey, an emergency just came up on my end. Is there a chance you're able to? Can you vamp for a bit? And,
I can talk for hours. Literally,
okay,
I can just rant.
Vamp a little bit more. We're gonna talk about the box office response, but I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, I will talk more about Fall Guys, because one of the things that I really appreciated about this movie, when it does talk about like it does talk about like actually how dangerous stunts can be and how rough and difficult stunts can be for people. And so that was one of the things that I really appreciated about this movie. I think some of the stuff that they did, like there's a scene, it's obviously glorified for Hollywood, but I think it kind of undercuts the message. There's like a scene where like, and this is not a spoiler, but where Ryan Gosling does a take where he gets like lit on fire, and like they keep doing it over and over and over again because the director's like mad at him. And I'm like, that would never happen on a film, because like that could potentially get somebody killed, you acting stupid like that. But other than that, you know, some of those like tropey things in Hollywood, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I thought the love angle was kind of whatever. I was like, okay. And then obviously they have like somebody said, can you dig it? I can dig it. The having like the villains of the movie being who they are, it's funny because sometimes Hollywood doesn't realize how they actually kind of shoot themselves in the foot. I'm not going to spoil the plot, but the main villains of the movie actually are very like glaring on Hollywood, because the people in the industry that get the most love and the most looks and the most eyes on them are the villains in this film. And I think that Hollywood doesn't realize that they're kind of making themselves look bad when they do something like that. They're like, oh, hey, all these people that you don't like, or, you know, whenever you take shots at actors for being like prissy divas and stuff like that, that's kind of the thing that we're dealing with in this film, you know? So I don't know. I appreciated parts of this film, but I also think Hollywood didn't realize how they were kind of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. So, hey, you all good?
I'm all good. I don't know what you said, but it sounded great.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about the box office here. And this is, I just want to kind of get your insights, see what you think. And again, I apologize. My computer is running real slow at the moment.
No, it's okay.
But Fall Guy comes in at $27 million over the weekend. I believe that falls fairly low in terms of projections and where it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think it's wanting to, from what I've read, is the target here is about 150 to 200 million. And it seems to be far off the path. And this is the weird thing, because, you know, I think I liked it. You liked it. I think a lot of people who actually saw it liked it. But why? Yeah. Do you have any thoughts as to why the lackluster performance over the weekend?
I think it's two-pronged. One, I do think that the story itself, the marketing for this movie does not do the story justice. I feel like the marketing is kind of off. They kind of market it as like a romantic comedy. This movie is kind of trying to do a lot of things at the same time. That always, to me, when it comes to marketing, will make people not want to go see it. They'll go, oh, what is this? Some kind of love story in Hollywood? I don't really want to see that. The other part of it is, unfortunately, I know a lot of people, and I hear this a lot, say, you know what? I don't really feel like going to the movies for something like this. This doesn't seem like a movie I want to waste my money on. You know, I don't know that I want to get up and go and have to get dressed and go do this when I can just watch this on streaming. This, to me, unfortunately, seems like a movie that most people that I know would sit there, would look at it and go, yeah, I'll just wait for that to come out on streaming to go watch that. I'll wait for it to show up, you know?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like, though, I mean, this is a movie you don't want to see at home.
I agree. Yes.
From the stunts, the visuals, everything this belongs on the big screen. Yeah. And one of the things that Dante and I talked about last Friday when we reviewed the film was that I think we came to the conclusion that this was a chick flick. This is a movie that you take your girlfriend to, and and maybe the stunts and the actions aren't exactly what the what the chicks wanted, and that maybe there's a little bit of confusion as to who the audience for the film is, and maybe we're learning this lesson too late in the game.
Yeah, I think that's a very accurate way of putting it, because the if you market it as a action film, it's not an action film, but there is a ton of action in the film. But if you market it as a rom-com and people go to see it as a rom-com, it's not really a rom-com either. It's doing a lot, and not always super well. But I think that, once again, the smartest thing for them to do would have been to pick one aspect of the movie and really lean into that. I think they should have marketed it as an action film, like as a love letter to Hollywood and action stars. And I think the marketing for that would have definitely been the angle that could have sold it. I think that people want to be reminded of why they like to go see movies and why they enjoyed going to see movies. The thing is, and I know, we're not the same age or anything, but remember in the 80s and the 90s and stuff, we were watching Jackie Chan do crazy stunts, and you knew that was a huge draw, and anytime you had an actor or somebody that did their own stunts and made a big deal about it, that was kind of a huge deal. And then just recently, we have John Wick, which is made by a stunt guy, and it was made by a team of stuntmen, so I think
that's Tiana doing his stunts for the most part.
Yeah, and that's a huge draw to people. So for them to be like, oh, it's a action stunt movie, but really we like, it's all about this love story. I'm like, yeah, people don't really want to see that. Just remind people, do you remember when Jackie Chan did this crazy thing? Or do you remember when this actor did this crazy stunt? Or Tom Cruise, which they actually kind of, they mentioned Tom Cruise quite a bit in this movie, and they kind of take shots at him. And I'm like, yeah, but he's kind of like the last living movie star. Why not lean into that and say, without him, you probably wouldn't have some of the box office draws you do. So
one of the things that that got Dante and I canceled from that discussion was, we didn't get canceled. But to me, it's like when I compare movies like this, the original Fall Guy came out in the 80s. In the 80s, it was stunt movies. It was all action oriented. In fact, I would liken this movie to Hooper more than the Stuntman. It was the movie exists just for a reason to do huge elaborate stunts. I think the issue maybe is that Ryan Gosling is not exactly the man's man of the 80s. He's tough in the movie, but I wouldn't call him a man's man. And compared to Burt Reynolds or to even Lee Majors, who was in the original television show, I think there's, I'm wondering if there's some of that in there that kept people out of the theaters as well.
Yeah, which is a shame, because I think Ryan Gosling does a good job in the movie. He's charming. I think he can carry a movie pretty well. But I do agree, he doesn't exude action star or action hero or anything. And he doesn't. And I feel like if they were going to lean into that, they should have leaned into it a lot harder. And Ryan Gosling doesn't have that same kind of machismo, that kind of he doesn't have that kind of grit that you feel. I think, like I said, he does a good job, and he did a couple bits, promoting the movie where he does stunts, and he's trying his best, but it's just not the same when you watch somebody like we talked about earlier, Keanu Reeves, running around and doing shooting drills and doing all these car stunts, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then we watch Ryan Gosling on Jimmy Kimmel breaking a vase over a guy's head, and you're like, it's not.
Well, I mean, look at it. Keanu. I would say Keanu and Ryan Gosling are built similarly. They're not far off, and yet one comes off as an action star and one doesn't. You don't know Ryan Gosling for his action films. You know him from Ken, and if you saw The Nice Guys, he was in that one as well. He's La La Land. He's not exactly, I don't think action star is the path that Ryan that suits Ryan well. There are La La Land, all these romantic comedies and stuff. Those tend to suit him much better than this.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think there could have been a lot of other actors that you probably could have cast that would have had a bigger draw in that feeling and then kind of in that vein. But yeah, it's kind of one of those ones. Yeah, you need um like a Keanu Reeves, or like this movie might have been interesting if you had, like, I don't know, Henry Cavill or somebody that kind of has that feeling that like, I'm like, as a guy, I'm like, yeah, I want to go see that guy kick ass in a movie. Like Ryan Gosling is fine. I mean, he did do what was it? Was it Driver? I think that was
Oh
the name
yeah,
of the movie. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it.
I don't remember the name of it either, but like he did that movie, and that was kind of a gritty action film, but it just, yeah, like with recent hits and the recent things he's done, like, you mostly know him, like you said, Notebook. Oh, Drive, not Driver,
Yeah, Drive.
Drive. But we know him mostly recently from Barbie and Ken, and I Ken isn't a huge draw to guys to want to go see that. Even Blade Runner 2049, who did a great job, but those are not the roles that he's most remembered for. He's A lot of times it feels like he's remembered for whatever he's done recently, not what he's done before. And the last thing he did was Ken, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, and I'll just point out one thing here in the box office, but a lot of it does have to do with budget.
yes,
It's not that you can't make a profit. You can't. It's not that you have to make blockbusters, but you can make profitable movies. And I'm coming down to number 7 here, Unsung Hero. Dante and I talked about this, but this is the Christian faith-based movie coming out of Lionsgate, and it's at 13 million, meaning that it's a few million away from actually hitting profitability. So
wow,
congrats to that. I took my daughter and her boyfriend to see it and spent almost $100 on tickets and food. Ooh. So
yeah,
there you go. All right,
movies are expensive nowadays, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, the food will. Yeah, I mean, part of me is like, I'm willing to spend the money to support my theater.
Yeah,
and I wish everyone else would do that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Like the local theater that me and my buddy Josiah go to, they have like a cool program where you basically subscribe for like X amount of, I think it's like $20 a month. I think it's a little bit more than that now. And basically you get like 3 free showings a week for you.
Yeah.
And
is that
then
the
you also
plan, or is that your local?
That's a local theater. They're okay. Owned by AMC, I believe.
Okay.
But like they have like a local deal that you can go to different theaters and do that. And then you also kind of like, if you spend a certain amount of money, you get like a $5 gift voucher, and those stack on each other.
That is AMC, the A-list plan.
Yep. And I really enjoy that. So it makes me want to go see movies a lot. But I think a lot of people don't even think about that. And I'm like, that would be better than any subscription service to me. Mm-hmm. I'd rather forego that and go see movies and get to see that, and it'd be cheaper for me to go see. Because like there's been a couple times where I've had enough vouchers where like I've gone and taken my kids, and they're like, wow, you have like 4 vouchers saved up. So I saved like $20 on the like ticket or whatever. But if you don't have that, yeah, going to movies is a lot. It's very expensive.
Yeah. All right, let's get to your comments here. We'll drop that out. Okay, from Horror Punk, we need a stream with half white Mike and quarter black Garrett together.
We have done that. Yeah, we've made one full black guy before. Yeah.
Do you guys? Does that make it? No, that makes you 3/4 of a black guy.
3/4 of a black guy. Well, close enough. Well, no, that's what it was. Yeah, I had another friend on here who was a quarter black as well. It's the Voltron of blackness. If we all combine, we make one black person. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, watch that Tom Brady roast, and there's some good jokes about that one. From Christopher Moonlight Productions, The Fall Guy also brought back Charles Band's Metal Storm. Was that in there, or? Okay,
yeah, I think that was the name of the movie.
Oh, that's right.
That they were doing. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. Metal Storm is the movie they were making. Corky's chilling. Really like the homage to Stuntmen. Yeah. I would say if you want to do it, go check out Hooper, starring Burt Reynolds. That is a Stuntman movie. From Penny, The Fall Guy was fun. I mean, that's just it. It's fun. It's just no one's going to theater to watch it, apparently. Alex Gray, Epic Verse is taken over now.
Oh, hopefully one day. Yeah.
Solomon Thornton. Yeah, when you guys launch everything, you'll definitely be back. From Solomon Thornton, when I think about stunt people, 3 comes to mind: Buster Keaton, Jackie Chan, and Tom Cruise. I'll tell you this. My first Jackie Chan movie was Rumble in the Bronx, and I had friends drag me to it. And to me, it was like Rumble in the Bronx reminded me a lot of Singing in the Rain, in the idea that Jackie Chan, it's more than just fighting and doing martial arts in a vacuum, but he used the environment that he was in, whether it was an arcade, whether it was on a big what is it, hovercraft. He used the environment as a means to flavor and accent the fights in the shopping mart, grocery store. And so that was mine, and that was the great introduction for me to Jackie Chan.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, Jackie Chan's amazing.
All right. From MK Solid, Epic Mike can rant. It's great. Yes, thank you for that. I had to find this thing in the backyard. All right. From Torviticus, Hero Saving Film Threat Interview. Oh, by the way, we have an interview today with Dan Mirvish. He's going to talk about his movie 18 and a half. And we're also going to talk about Slam Dance coming to LA. From Davina Duckworth, Alan and Epic Mike are a great team. Yes. And we're only 30 minutes in. So, we could ruin that real easy. Hey, it's me in HD. As a fan of 80s and 90s action movies, I'm still baffled how the Academy doesn't have an award. Yeah, coming. There's no stunt Academy Award.
Nope. There should be, but there's not.
Yeah. Yes, and it's called out in the movie. Solomon Thornton. This is why I believe directors should have a say in marketing and trailers. 100%. I've seen so many movies ruined by a trailer. And then to talk to the director and say we had nothing to do with it. Especially those that spoil the surprise of the movie. Yeah. MK Solid 82. Seeing movies in theaters is just a chore now. You belong to the A-list. I belong to the A-list. I also belong to Regal's plan as well.
Nice.
And quite frankly, it's kind of nice to go, it's to have the ability to go to a theater and just see whatever. Yeah. It makes it so much better. And then the air conditioning.
The air conditioning is always very nice, especially during the summer. Yeah.
Yeah. The food. Yeah. I will say the food is getting better. More options.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. From Victor Fontaine, every one of my friends and family said that they're just waiting, that they will just wait for streaming. None of them want to go to the theater to see Fall Guy. I hear you. From Blue just became a YouTube member. Be sure to join us in the Discord, and we got some special videos also in the member chat. From John Platt for £5 thank you very much. Since the COOF ended, I have got away from the cinema going and instead spend my money on building plastic model kits, which I used to do as a hobby as a kid. Yeah, it drew a lot of people back to the fun hobbies of the past.
Yep. It's sad. I mean, but that's the unfortunate thing. Going to see a movie now, you most of the time feel like you wasted your money. That's not a good feeling. And it really has kind of built up steam over the last few years, because probably just 2020 I went and saw movies, but obviously they were shut down for a while and stuff. For a little run there, I would go see movies all the time. Like me and Josiah would go see movies almost every week, sometimes twice a week, or sometimes we'd go and see 3 movies in a row and use up the stipend we had or whatever. And unfortunately now I rarely have a drive to go see the movie again. I want to support my theater, but as far as going to see a movie, I'm I don't even know if it's going to be worth my time, So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and even for me, I mean, thank God they opened a theater just down the street from my house.
Nice.
They opened it a year and a half before the COOF, and so it's a 5-minute drive. If that theater wasn't there, it would be a 20 to 30-minute drive to the next local theater.
That's
and
a long drive. Yeah,
it is. And there is that, hey, do I really want to go out of the house? And there is work involved. Okay, let's move on. We're gonna clear the decks. Whoops, thank you, Lori. And I need to get rid of that banner. Got it. And let us pivot.
By the way, when DEI comes after farts, it's over. What are you talking about?
It's pretty good.
All right, let's talk about Disney. They just
boy.
had their recent earnings call yesterday. Their stock plummeted. I just kind of want to talk about it. For some reason, of all the studios, Disney is the one we love trolling.
Yep.
It's the one that just kind of represents the worst in Hollywood at the moment, especially from a business perspective. And the I don't know not a B, so I can't vouch for its veracity. I know they're trying to be, I guess, like the Babylon Bee, but they have the best article about this. Woke Disney stock plunges after another disastrous earning call. We can't say why we didn't see it coming, even though we did see it coming. Well, this is a surprise. After years of pushing a not-so-secret gay agenda on kids and spending billions on poorly written, badly directed box office bombs, Disney had another fun earnings call. Stock plunged almost 10% moments after CEO Bob Iger predicted poor earnings in quarter 3. So this next quarter, they predict they're not going to do so well. Let me see. And of course, my screen here is stuck on Trump. Here we go. It goes through all the disasters of Disney. The Marvels lose $230 million. Indiana Jones loses $143 million. Wish loses $131 million. Haunted Mansion $117 million. Disney execs are blaming everything but themselves for this, citing industry changes and superhero fatigue. We know that the real problem is bad movies and woke agenda fatigue. Okay, so this is clearly from Not a B. I'll skip that. Okay, so here's the thing. When I saw the news about the earnings call, let me see. Let's take a look at Disney here. This is today. Today they are losing about 0.1%, but you could see the big drop here. This is where they were at the earnings call, and then it dropped down here. And I don't know what that is, but after a day it hasn't recovered. And I don't put a lot of sway into the stocks. If we could invest based on the news, we could probably be all rich. But things are not looking good. And what you saw in that earnings call is Bob Iger. It's this idea that he'll spin anything anyway to make them look good. They'll say that they didn't see things coming, or they'll say that those numbers aren't as much as bad as you think they are. Then they'll push money around saying that Disney Plus added new subscribers. What is, based on just the business end of things? Let me drop that out. What do you think is going on at Disney?
I mean, I wish I could say something that hasn't already been said, but you've kind of hit the nail on the head with and that article did too. They obviously have become more agenda driven than they have become profit driven. If you worked at let's say, Alan, you own a company, and obviously maybe your main focus isn't just making as much money as possible, but let's say you run a company and the first time you put out a product you lose, like if you own a multi-million-dollar company and you lose $1 million, you go, ooh, we don't want to lose $1 million again. But imagine then the next time you put out a product you lose $1 million, then you lose $1 million again. You go, at some point somebody has to go, what is going on and what is not working? And Disney hasn't done that. Like we're watching them like roll out bomb after bomb after bomb, and this is on the heels of what we were already talking about with them, which is that we knew that their movies were struggling. We've been saying this for a while. We know Star Wars has become almost completely unprofitable. Like it doesn't generate anything anymore. Galactic Star Cruiser was a nightmare. You know, we know that they lean really heavily on their parks to generate income for them. We also know that the parks have not been doing as well as they were hoping they were. You know, so we're watching them just take hit after hit after hit, and at some point, as somebody in the company has to stop and say enough is enough. We have to get back to something that drives people, but all we've seen them do is double down on nostalgia, you know, baiting nostalgia. We've seen them double down on making more and more movies to establish, and I'll use this is a page from Chris's book, establish Disney as a girl brand, you know, and things like that, when that was never an issue before. You know, like we knew, you know, the Little Mermaid is mostly for going to be for young girls, but guys went and saw it, kids saw it. You know, these movies were made for people that, like, for kids in general, that all could go see it, and their parents could watch it and enjoy it with them. Now a lot of times I'll watch a movie and I'll go, as a parent, I don't want to watch this, and I kind of don't want my kid watching this because I don't want them thinking like I don't want them to watch this and watch something bad when we could go watch something good and enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, it used to be. I mean, we've heard it from recently from theater owners that people would go up to the window, see the Disney movie, and ask, "Is it safe?" You know, there used to be a time where you just plop your kid in front of Disney, the Disney Channel, and you walk away, and you didn't fear anything bad or anything that you as a parent might object to
100%.
infiltrating these stories.
Yeah.
And you know, I think, you know, you mentioned doubling down. It just seems like there's this path that Disney is going down, and that nothing is going to cause them to stray from that path. You know, this fight with Nelson Peltz trying to get on the board, and the amount of money, the corporate money they spent trying to keep him off the board, was incredible to me. You know, the idea that Iger has appointed the entire board as yes men, basically, and so there's no dissent. There's no one in the corporation that says, "Hey, we're losing money like you can't believe. Maybe we should change direction, or maybe we should look at things differently." I remember in the D-Files when we talked about Strange World, they had made this movie, added the gay teen love story, and put in and basically told a story that was about the dangers of fossil fuels. It was an environmental allegory. The movie bombed opening Thanksgiving weekend. And the first thing that all the employees got during that Zoom call to kind of go over the massacre of the weekend was, I know it hurts, but we have to stay the course. And that was eye-opening to me, because and that's what got us to Wish, to an even more activist type story. And you know, I mentioned it ad nauseum, but you know, Walt Disney was always driven by failure. His next movie, if it failed, it could have tanked the company. Disney is too big to fail, and it just doesn't seem like they care. And what they say after the earnings call is just an indication that they're going to spin things however they want, make things seem better than they are to investors, while we as the audience know we're being gaslit like crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think the difference here, because I've seen so many people go, Disney has always been a big company. They've struggled in the past, and they've always you know. But the problem here is that we have never had this level of transparency within the film industry. And the thing is, we have watched studios. 20th Century Fox is gone. They don't exist anymore. They belong to Disney. You know, like I would have never in a million years thought that 20th Century Fox would have been bought up by the mouse, but here it is. You know, when they bought Marvel was struggling. They needed help, you know, and they had gotten back to some profitability, but it made a little bit of sense. When they bought Star Wars, you go, okay, well, George Lucas has been looking to sell Star Wars. He just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. But like, they've just been buying things up left and right, and we're watching them make every single one of these properties and IPs completely worthless. And that's the part of it that is wild to me. But you know, the other part of it is like, we've worked with people now, you know, doing this independent stuff that have worked with Disney. and I have not met a single person. It's not hyperbole. I've not met a single person that has ever had any dealings with Disney that has anything good to say about the company.
Hmm.
They don't
But
like working with them. They said it's always a terrible experience. And I know people that have been screwed over by them bad enough to say, you know what? The only reason I didn't sue them was because they make it such a legal headache to deal with them
mhm.
that it wasn't worth my time. You know, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you go back to 2 weeks ago when we talked about Disney and Versus, this is a company that's strayed far off Walt's path. Uh,
Yes.
was Disney always big? Well, it was big, but Disneyland almost didn't open.
Yeah.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs almost was never finished. You
Yeah.
know, they there was that fear of failure, and I think that fear of failure made their products better. It
Yeah.
forced better storytelling. It predicated on the fact that we need a large audience to see our movies and go to our parks and for us to make money.
Yep.
And that simple common sense idea about business is gone.
Yeah.
And it's just excuses. I mean,
Always. Yeah.
watching Disney, watching Bob Iger speak is like watching politics.
Yeah.
Uh, you
Yep.
can't believe a thing they say, and you feel like you're being gaslit every time they open their mouth.
Yeah, which is wild because once again, I was talking about this with somebody like a week ago. I remember like when not Bob Iger, Michael
Michael
Eisner
Eisner? Yeah.
would show up on the Wonderful World of Disney, and
Mhm.
he'd show up on your television and he'd sit down and give you this speech. And even though it was all corporate and it was about making money, and we know Michael Eisner was all about making money and he
Yeah.
didn't care about making good art. The quote from him. At the end of the day, me and my mom and like other people we knew, we would sit down in front of the TV and believe that this guy on the television was telling us the truth and really wanted us to be entertained and to enjoy the hard work that was put into
Mhm.
this film. We all believe that stuff. Now, if Bob Iger went up and said that, I wouldn't believe him. I would think that it was an
Yeah.
angle, and I don't think that is just because of the transparency. I think it is absolutely because of what we've seen from Disney and how we've seen them lie and how the lack of transparency across the board. And while yes, you don't want to upset your investors and things like that, how long can you keep lying to your investors before something happens to
Mhm.
your company that you can't come back from? That's what
Yeah.
we're all kind of looking at, is going, yo, like we're not desperate to see this company fail for the sake of seeing it fail. We're all wondering, yo, the writing's kind of on the wall. At what point do you go, yes, we have to pivot and change, or at what point do you just fall apart?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I see Gary talk about this all the time. It's like, let's just let it fail.
Yeah.
Just let Disney crash and burn, and
Yes.
then see what rises up from those ashes.
Yes.
Because it's like, what is the scenario of change? Even if Nelson Peltz got on the board, he is now one minority voice on the board of directors, and so
Yeah.
whatever he says, he's going to get outvoted.
Yes.
And but at least that was a beginning. At least that was a sign that people outside of Iger and his cabal know what's going on and want to see change.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we have to go another year of bad Disney for them to finally get it.
Yeah.
I went to CinemaCon. I went to the Disney panel, and 4 movies. I'll just mention the 3 big ones, the 3 live action movies, quote unquote, that I think will be great for Disney this year. It's Deadpool Wolverine, it's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and it's Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
Ironically, all 3 of those are Fox movies, are Fox Studio films.
You nailed it. That's it right there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else that like Disney has a what is it, the young girl and the sea, about a woman the first woman to swim across the English Channel. And I watched that trailer, and I'm sure the person who did it has an inspiring story to tell. But you watch that trailer, and it's all about they'll never let a woman do this. No one cares if a woman can do that. A woman's certainly going to die out in the ocean, and that's the trailer they give you.
Yeah.
And it's not about being an inspiring person, but it's about the cause.
Yes. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, it's funny because people ask. I see this as an excuse for Disney. People say, well, there have always been like woke movies, there have always been activist movies, there have always been movies that are about a cause, and some of them were really popular and appreciated. But like a big part of it is the authenticity of it. You know, the authenticity of these comments. Like if you go watch like Remember the Titans, like yes, the movie is definitely about racism and racism being a bad thing and stuff, but it was a real story, and the goal wasn't to yell at the audience about, you know, racism's bad. The goal of the goal was to tell the audience an entertaining story about this football team and how they came together and overcame a bunch of odds that were external to just playing football. It's an interesting concept, you know, but we also watched the Disney tank the sports genre as well. They just kept pumping things out, and then they ended up, you know, putting the new Mighty Ducks on Disney Plus, and people didn't like it and people didn't enjoy it, and now you had Emilio Estevez walk away from it. And so it's like, you know, there's at this point, like you said, Disney's best projects are relying on the goodwill of another company that they bought to make it work. Deadpool was popular not because of Disney, but because of what Fox did with it. Because Fox decided to take a risk when the footage leaked, and they decided to really lean into Deadpool and what makes Deadpool work. You know, the sequel to Deadpool, while I don't think it was as good as the first one, still was trying to rely on the comic books and still trying to be accurate to the character, to the source material, to the themes of the character. It's like, so Disney's going, hey, cool, we got this character that you guys love, and don't you guys want to watch him do stuff? And you're like, yeah, but I'm kind of worried you guys are going to make him not act like he was supposed to act, you know, because we know you have an agenda, and now everybody sees that. So
I mean, it's fun watching Kevin Feige talk about it, about Deadpool, because he came out and thought it'd be really cool if he just started dropping F-bombs, and he dropped about 6 of them. And you just realize that you know, it's like, you know, we just need a win here, and so and it was just like, we're gonna get the win here, but we're still staying the course, you know. So
we just
enjoy
need a win.
This one movie.
Yeah, we need a win so we can justify to everybody around us that we haven't completely lost the plot. But like, everybody knows they've lost the plot, because that's, like you said, at the end of the day, they're still staying to this agenda. And I mean this in the best way, because I know a lot of people will have an opinion, and I know a lot of people kind of already know the answer to this question, but it's a question that I pose that I hope will wake up other people. Like, why are they putting this agenda above profitability? That doesn't make any sense. Like, no, you want to make entertainment, you want to make good movies. Sometimes movies flop. It happens. You know, that's what cult classics were a thing. But we haven't seen Disney make a cult classic in decades. There hasn't been a movie that flopped at the box office and then became a massive hit later, you know? So it's like, what is driving these people to stay this course? Why is it that nobody can stop at this company and go, hey, listen, we're losing money, we're struggling, the company is at an all-time low, and all these other companies around us that we have been able to, like, that have not even been close in competition to us, are watching us struggle, and they're circling around us. You know, we're watching Epic Universe about to take off, which, ironic name, but like, they're about to release a theme park that blows anything Disney has out of the water. Like,
I know,
but
for the
Disney
first time, it's weird. For the first time, we're planning a vacation to Orlando, and it's Epic Universe we're going to, and not Disney. And that's never. I've been there many times, and that's never happened. The other thing is, you know, okay, so at CinemaCon, we saw a clip of Captain America: New World Order, and it's look, when you see a trailer, you should be inspired to want to see that movie. When I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, we knew what we were getting. We saw the clips, and I was inspired to see that movie. I can't wait to see it. But now with Captain America, it's like I'm just not inspired at all. You know, again, and this is the problem with Disney. They just assume that if they produce a movie, we'll come out and see it. And it surprises me that they have yet to learn that lesson. That we're, just because you make a movie, just because you make a Marvel movie, just because you make a Star Wars movie, we're not going to come out in droves to see it. And they don't see it here. No, all right, let's go to comments. Let's see, from Cass again. I think Disney has been boom and bust since Walt died, chasing trends with brief periods of success. I will say, you mentioned Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner saved Disney. Disney was dying, was literally, from a business standpoint, was not in a good position. And Eisner came in, changed the company, kept it from getting bought out, and did amazing things with it. And I'll just Touchstone Films was a big thing. And you talk about him being more concerned about money than creativity. Yes. And that greed that Michael Eisner had created the Beverly Hills Cop series.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes greed is good.
Yeah.
Someone said that. From Cord Wayner, Disney was the smuggest. Are you talking about Walt or just the company itself? Because I could believe either.
Yeah.
Harry Brownhall for $2 Canadian. Hollywood has to earn benefit of the doubt very hard.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. It is just a lot harder to do that nowadays, especially with Disney. Yeah. When I talk about Inside Out, I saw the first 35 minutes of Inside Out, and it looks really good. But I know Disney has done the bait and switch in the past, and that they can produce a good 35 minutes. It's what they stick on at the end. That's the issue, and I just don't trust it to stick the landing of the great start of that movie.
No, not at all.
From Red French Moon, because even Amazon or Netflix produce good things, Disney is pushing the same stuff. Oh yeah, so yeah, I was just talking to Mike about the Tom Brady roast on Netflix. That was hilarious. I mean, it's crazy, and I think the best you could say about Netflix is they're producing a wide variety of content, and it appeals to a wide variety of people. Yeah. And I may not appreciate half of the things coming on Netflix, but I can certainly appreciate the other half.
Yeah. They're taking risks that that a company like Disney should take because they have the capital to do so. And that's the sad part is like Disney has taken, let's just go the safe route and go with what works. But they've done this in the past too. And I can't fault them for going with that, but they've done it in the past where like, the guys that, they did Little Mermaid, then they did The Lion King, then they did Aladdin, and they were like, hey, then they did Hercules. They're like, hey, let's keep doing these movies. These are working for us, and then they kind of took a risk with, I think it was Treasure Planet, and then Treasure Planet didn't do very well. And they're like, oh, so they're very risk averse, but they have the money to take risks and they won't. And so Netflix is going, let's just try it and see what happens. Yeah. Amazon does the same thing. Amazon says, let's just try it and see what happens. And the one time they didn't do that and didn't listen to their audience and with this Rings of Power thing, look at how much money they've lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the classic example of Netflix is you got One Piece and you have Avatar live action. They're kind of getting it. One Piece, they got the hit, Avatar, not so much. Yeah. The fact that they are backing people like Dave Chappelle and this roast this roast should get any channel canceled. I mean, this roast was so bad that you're glad that they pulled it off of Comedy Central and put it on Netflix, because these jokes are so offensive, and by being so offensive, they're so great. because everyone went there. I mean, the stuff that was coming out of Kevin Hart's mouth was insane.
Just the clips I watched, I was like, we haven't seen this kind of comedy in so long. Yeah. And comedians are like kind of the last they're the last, they're kind of the last warriors. They're on the front line taking hits to try to stop this from happening. And like you just said, like Alan, like Comedy Central is not what it used to be. They used to have these roasts on Comedy Central. And could you imagine how much money Comedy Central could be raking in right now if they just actually put out real comedy and let these comedians say what they want to say, even if it is, controversial or scary? It's like Netflix said, you know what? We'll take the risk. It's fine. And they have been making a killing on these comedy specials because of it. So
I mean, I swear Tom Brady's set on his roast should get him canceled, and it won't. And thank goodness for that. He shouldn't have. Don't apologize. And the other thing is, even on Comedy Central, these roasts, there was a great deal of self-censorship going on. And I would venture to say that there may have been a little bit of self-censorship in that Tom Brady roast, but there are some jokes that were like really cringeworthy. And again, that's why we love these roasts. The Lone Pigeon predicted poor earnings in Q3. Way to go out on a limb. Did he also predict the sun coming up each day? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is how much longer can these poor earnings reports come out before Iger is forced to take accountability for them?
Yeah.
From Rumble ADLs24, the earnings call was hilarious. We are focusing on original ideas. Then why are you making sequels and remakes?
Yep.
Solomon Thorne, this is what happens when Iger is in charge of Disney. He's the Jack Warner of his generation. Boom. All right. From Uncle Remus, bombs away, Bob Iger.
Yeah.
Justin Channels, until now, Disney could crash its studio division because they had positive operating income from parks. Now parks is showing weakness and investors are frightened. Yeah, I don't think people are getting an accurate impression of the performances at the parks. And as much as they're relying on them, that is something that's being neglected right now. And
Yes.
and we'll actually get into that in just a moment. From Suns and Shadows, if it ain't broke, let's break it till we need to fix it. There you go. Lone Pigeon, Iger and Disney playing the cup and balls game with their earnings. Ran out of cups, and now everyone knows they have no balls. Very good. Chelsea M, I wish Disney would stop ruining movies from us millennials' childhoods. Oh, and stop ruining movies from us Gen Xers too, for the boomers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go watch the Versus episode we did on Disney. One of my points was that it seemed like Disney feels they have to correct Walt, and that's why they're remaking a lot of these movies, doing live action versions of it, because Walt was racist in his day, and we need to fix that.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, there's no way that a person that was racist or had any kind of controversial thoughts or feelings could ever make anything of any worth or have any kind of. Yeah, it sits in these people's minds. Sorry, this is just like a quick thing, but like it sits in their minds to look at this thing and go, "Oh, Walt Disney was racist." Half the time, they don't even know what that actually means. They just know the word is there, and they go, "How could a racist make something that I care about or love?" And now when they look at it, they go, you know what? I just realized there are no black women in there are no black women in The Little Mermaid. So we have to go back and fix The Little Mermaid and really make it what we think the right way to do it is. And their right way to do it is to say, let's just insert people of a different race or minority into it, instead of actually going like, okay, does it actually have problems? Is it actually problematic? You know, but they don't want to have that conversation because the answer would be no, it's not problematic. It doesn't have any issues. And you have to think of something on your own and come up with your own ideas. But they know their own ideas don't have any merit because all their ideas are built on and predicated on how can I judge the previous generation for their failures. And if you live in a world where you're the victim and the guys before you are all at fault, then you'll never make anything new and you'll never produce anything of quality because everything will be predicated on, well, they did this to me and that's why there's a problem, you know?
Yeah.
And that's sad.
Yeah. And the other side of that coin is, you know, because he may have been racist back then, he still did great things. Yes. And, you know, and let's be real. Walt Disney hired minorities and not just to clean up the studio, but he put them in prominent roles. Tyrus Wong is the art director of Bambi, an Asian man. You know, the whole story of Song of the South, and James Baskett being the first African-American male to win an Academy Award. Although he did lobby for it and kind of paid for it. But nonetheless, that was there. You know, Mary Blair, a female artist, art designer for Sleeping Beauty. Yeah. And she also inspired It's a Small World. And don't blame her for that. Okay, so from Day Trippers, if you want to watch Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary now, speaking of Sleeping Beauty, after what's happening, it makes me feel heartbroken. I grew up adoring Ashman and Menken. Yeah, I mean, Howard Ashman, you know, I don't think, you know, when I think of the Disney Renaissance, I think of Howard Ashman. His lyrics were incredible. Alan Menken as well.
Yeah.
And gay man. They hired a gay man who created
Look
the
at
greatest
that.
songs out of Disney.
Yeah.
All right. And then lastly from MK Solid 82 for $4.99. Apparently Lucas saw the doc, The People versus George Lucas, that Chris starred in, and he got really mad. It most likely contributed to the Disney sale. And one more super chat here from Aaron Charman for $20 British pounds. Disney is self-cannibalizing. They're mining their old IPs and the other IPs they've obtained to death. They delve too greedily and too deep. I kind of liken it to the Borg. They just grabbed the idea, enfolded it within the company, and it lost its soul. Each of these properties lost their soul for the greater collective. Super chats keep coming in from Simba Leslie Chato for I remember what that was. I can't remember right now. 35 ZAR. People don't care about cinema here in Cape Town, South Africa. I think it's South African currency. Yes. People don't care about cinema here in Cape Town, South Africa. Movies are expensive here, and bad reviews affect attendance. Absolutely. Again, you make a movie expecting us to spend our money on it. It's kind of the other way around. You want to make a movie that will make us want to spend money on it.
Yes.
And that's where you lose everything. And then from Andrew Cram, 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much for that. If you get it, be sure to join us on Discord and check out the member channel as well. Okay, speaking of bad things Disney is doing, I'm pulling this from our friends at That Park Place and Lorena Creel as well. But I believe in May or coming up soon, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is opening at Walt Disney World. Disney Parks here says, let's see if I can read that. We are thrilled to share Splash Mountain. Oh, this is the old artist concepts of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Doesn't it look pretty good? Like this,
I mean, it looks pretty.
Yeah. I know. And look at that. Look, the mountain may be a little bit smaller, but you have this beautiful tree above it. And then it's surrounded by the bayou. I mean, this feels like New Orleans to me. I'm pretty impressed with what they've done here.
Yeah.
So you're saying, it looks pretty good, right?
Yeah.
All right. And of course, what happened was, here we go. So there's the original Splash Mountain. This is the Disneyland one. Why? Because it has the greatest seats ever. It's the date seats there, the single row. But I remember when this opened at Disneyland. I was there during its soft opening. It was a really great ride. For me, it was seeing the old America Scenes characters in it. And then finally, we have a flume ride, a log ride at Disneyland, and loved it. So in just a few months, Disney fans out there will be able to experience the brand new Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Look at that. Isn't that great?
This looks like something you would see in like a parody film about Disney. Like this looks like that one movie that Johnny Knoxville did, like Danger Park. Like this looks like something like that, where like the people are gonna come shooting out on a log and like fly off the edge. This is so bad.
I know. Let's remind ourselves. Here's the original artwork. I mean, that's that would have been
magical. Great. You're like, ooh, look, we're down in the bayou. That's beautiful. Nope, sorry guys, we're in the landfill. It wasn't a bayou. It was it was a landfill. It was I mean, this is where your septic waste goes at the end of the day.
I know, it's like the fungus is just growing all over this hillside.
How do you mess up that badly?
It's a kudzu on steroids here. I mean, this just gets back to, again, the gaslighting that Disney gives us, and this is specific to this era of Disney, the Iger era of Disney, because you knew that they wanted to get rid of Song of the South and anything that had anything to do with it. Yep. And so they sold us on this image of, like, Tiana. Tiana is a great movie. My daughter is next to Tangled. Princess and the Frog was my daughter's favorite Disney movie at that time. She still makes me listen to the soundtrack in my car on long trips. It's not that they weren't beloved characters. They were beloved characters, but it was, and they sell us on this and they give us that. And it speaks to me, clearly, they didn't know how to transform the original ride, because there's no way that they were going to rebuild this ride. So they took what was existing there, put the, unlike Disneyland where they put the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay over the ride, this is the Princess and the Frog overlay, and it looks horrible because they don't know what they're doing. I think the folks over at That Park Place describe it as, this is Hobby Lobby decorations.
Yeah,
they bought it in bulk, and the point I want to make here is, one of the things that's missing from Disney, has been missing for a very long time, is this idea of excellence. There was a time where you would go to the park and you would walk into the world of whatever. You walk into the future at Tomorrowland. You would walk into the Western of Frontierland. You go to Toontown and you're walking into the land where Mickey and Minnie live. And people spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort to make it look like those things, to give us that experience. Yeah. And that is gone. If you go over to That Park Place, I'll keep pushing their site, because they're good to us, and we've been good to them, and we're kind of on the same team here. But they'll go over just the lack of excellence that is missing throughout the entire park. The excellence that is missing throughout the entire park, where even lights in the sidewalks don't work. And and so you're seeing this lack of care from the studio and their movies now being transferred to the theme park, which, of course, the theme park was where the money was coming from, and they can't even get that right. You brought up Galaxy's Edge. Chris did an entire series on the problem with Galaxy's Edge.
It's awful. And I think that what you said, that drive for excellence is huge, and for you to not have that as a company shows you that there's something like fundamentally wrong with you as a company. You should always, it's one thing to say, hey, we tried really hard and things didn't work out. But the thing is, when you're the biggest dog on campus, when you're the biggest company in the world, and you own all of these IPs and all of these concepts and stuff, we all expect that you are going to put into these the amount of effort and time that we think is deserving of those IPs. And it's obvious that they're not. And now, they're doing it to their own products. It'd be one thing if this was with Galactic Star Cruiser, maybe Disney never really, I'm just using this as an excuse, but maybe Disney never really fully bought into Star Wars. Maybe Bob Iger wasn't a big Star Wars fan. Maybe Kathleen Kennedy doesn't even really believe in Star Wars, and so they're just investing a little bit here, and they're just kind of letting it just exist on its own. But Princess and the Frog is a Disney property. You should believe in this, and you should invest all the time and effort and money that you can into this to make it look excellent and prove to people, listen, what you've lost is not as good as what we're about to give you. But instead, it's they're just gutting everything that they have to talk about how problematic it is, and they're not replacing with anything of any merit or substance or quality. And even you said Strange New World, anytime they come up with an original idea, it's completely bankrupt. There's no creativity in it. It's just to push another agenda or another concept to people. It's really sad.
Yeah, I'll keep bringing up. I'll bring up Michael Eisner again. Yes. He was driven by money, and the way he knew to make money was to entertain people. And quite frankly, that was Walt Disney. I think Eisner was just a little more evil about it. But nonetheless, from Eisner came Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King. He has a success record. He knew that money came from creativity. While now, we've said it again, or you said it, where money comes from the IP, the cash cow that they just bought. Yep. These money making machines, and all they have to do is keep recreating the money making machine, and it'll just make more money. and creativity is just not in there anymore. And they hire people who have no concern for excellence.
Yeah.
Instead, they have concern for some kind of activism. Like, we need to tell stories about this. Our stories need to look. The characters in our stories need to look like this. The fact that now, well, I just watched the Tales of the Empire, and if you're honestly, Chris Gore said, if you're honestly going to bank Star Wars as a girls' brand, you're going to lose money. And
Yes.
Disney has entertained girls in the past with the princesses.
Yes.
Why do you have to make everything that way?
Yeah, Disney has always been multifaceted and be able to appeal to a broad range of people across the spectrum on what works and what is good and what isn't. Like, if you argue that the Little Mermaid is a girls' movie, then The Lion King is a boys' movie. If you argue, that Aladdin is a boys' movie, like, there's always been a balance to everything. And I remember at one point, and this was, oh my gosh, this might have been, I don't know, a decade ago. I remember there was a whole conversation that Disney had and brought forth about how they were losing, their projects weren't doing as well as they wanted them to, and they were going to put an emphasis on making movies for young boys. And they wanted to put an emphasis on that. I remember it started with, I think it was Mars Needs Moms. I think it was a Disney brand movie.
Yeah, that was.
And it kind of flopped. Yeah, it kind of flopped, and like the idea now of like boy brands or movies for boys are like, it's okay to feel sensitive and it's okay to have feelings, and it's like, that has never been an issue. But a young boy doesn't want to watch a movie where somebody's screaming at him to cry. Like, he wants to watch a movie where like the good guy fights a bad guy and there's a giant explosion in the background. Like, and it's funny because like I went back and recently started rewatching the old MCU movies with my son, and he loves just about everything that was before Infinity War. Like, there's some movies he's like, I'm not as interested in this, but for the most part, he likes those movies because there's a lot of action, there's a lot of drive in them, they're not preachy, they're not arguing with people. Like, a lot of the new stuff he has no interest in. He gets bored, he gets up, he walks away, things like that, because he can tell the difference, he can see it. He can, and the other part of it is like, we're also seeing it with some of these newer movies. He'll watch these newer movies and there's nothing interesting. It's just about like a bunch of people sitting around talking about their feelings and talking about why other people not talking about their feelings is bad. And it's like, he's like, this isn't funny. I don't find this entertaining. I don't find anything fun about this. And it's really sad to see. And it's very frustrating as a father to watch this, because I'm like, okay, I guess all we have to go on now is the stuff that we had before. And so when he's like, hey, you want to watch this with me? I'm like, buddy, I don't think that that's going to be worth our time. And he doesn't understand that. But I'm like, you're not going to enjoy this movie. Let's go back and watch something that I know you'll like, because that's all we really have right now, because a lot of the new stuff isn't good anymore. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that being able to see as many movies as I can or I have is a privilege of what I do, and the other privilege is me being able to take my daughter with me, and she has now gotten to the point of it doesn't, hey, there's a screening of this coming up. For example, next Wednesday I'm seeing Furiosa. She has no interest in seeing that. And that is the comment I'm getting a lot nowadays of, hey, do you want to go to this screening? Do you want to see The Fall Guy with me? I have no interest in seeing that. And I will say that not that she represents all teens out there, but I have a feeling they're not that atypical, but they're just not into movies anymore. And I have to believe a lot of it has to do with the fact that they don't care about these stories. The Marvels, the classic one was, are you going to see the Marvels? Are your friends going to see the Marvels? And she says, no, we saw the trailer and it sucked. And that's why they didn't see the Marvels.
Wow.
The very audience. And by the way, thank you to the, let's see, we're looking at 2,200 people watching us now on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, bell for notifications, follow us on Rumble. I don't know what you do on X, but whatever positive vibe you can give us on X, that would be great.
There you go.
Let's go to comments here. Almost hit the wrong button. All right, here we go. From Solomon Thornton. If they sell crawfish, I'm going. Oh yeah, that's
There you go.
Tiana's
Yeah.
Bayou Adventure. I'd go for that. Cast again, The Purple Menace. From Larry. Swamp Thing art, LOL. Yeah. Davina Duckworth, Asterisk. I don't know what that is. Why did we start that one? Jay Price, there are no mountains in the Bayou. There is one now. Davina Duckworth, it's a log, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Why did? Okay, never mind. From Super Mayor EO, looks like Shrek's. You know what? Looks like Shrek's. You know what?
Yeah.
Brock Samsonite Action Park. Yeah, it's. I mean, Disney could become Action Park at any moment now. KG Jung, I've seen trash dumps in Florida that were more impressive. KG Jung also says the $200 million virtue signal, the ride.
Yeah.
I mean, it had the problem right from the start when they needed to get rid of Song of the South.
Yeah,
it's very In fact, here's the comment from Torvidicus. It's sort of disappointing. Song of the South was my first Disney film in theaters. So Splash Mountain getting scrapped hurts. But they couldn't even deliver on a new vision. That's the thing, is you take something that's great and you replace it with something worse. Another example at Disney World is Alien Encounter. Alien Encounter was a great ride. It scared the hell out of children, but it was a great ride. And then they ruined it by putting Stitch in it.
Wow.
Never forgive him for that. From Maniac, FJB. I have no idea what that means. That's for $2. Thank you. Do you know what that means?
I have no idea what that means.
Do I need to look this up? Hold on. Give me F. Am I going to regret looking it up?
Maybe.
Here we go.
Oh, okay. I see what it is. Yeah.
Oh, is it a?
It's
is it political?
Yeah. Let's go, Brandon. Basically, it's the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, I get it. Because that goes to his next comment for $5. Thank you for that, mega. Here we go from Christopher Peak. Disney Imagineers today don't have an imagination.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, the other thing is, it seems like Imagineering these days break down more. Their stuff is just breaking down. And from Tater, my landscaping company could have done a better job with that than with just 2 weeks of work. Very good.
I actually, just as a thing there, I don't disagree. I think you're absolutely right. There are people out there, unfortunately, that have the talent and the skill and the drive to make this company profitable and to get back to making great stuff. And Disney has no idea how to do that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, from the D-Files, there was an entire animation department that was dedicated to keeping the Disney tradition going.
Yeah.
And in the second part, we talk about Raya and the Last Dragon, the first movie that was taken out of the hands of John Lasseter and his team, and then completely replaced. And from what I was told, I can't go into details, but the original story of Raya was pretty amazing, and was written by Adele Lim, who wrote Crazy Rich Asians, the screenplay.
Wow.
And it was an incredible story, and they scrapped it, and they started right off the bat putting in DEI stipulations.
Yep.
And what came out was not a movie that was excellent in Disney standards, but for the most part, it was a downgraded okay movie that performed moderately well during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that was the problem that it had, and it just got worse from there. All right, here let's pivot
now. Say my name.
You're Chris Gore.
You're goddamn right.
All right, so we have one more topic we want to talk about before our guest comes, and let me present the screen here. Okay, of course we have the lovely Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. From Variety magazine. Disney is overhauling MCU output with a new mission to drop the number of Marvel movies to at most 3 a year, and the number of series to 2 a year. Well, we're slowly going to decrease volume, and we're working hard on what the path is, says Bob Iger, adding that Marvel has a couple good films in 2025. Don't know what they are. And then they're heading to more Avengers, which we're extremely excited about. Overall, I feel great about the slate. It's something, as you know, that I've committed to spending more and more time on. The team is one that I have tremendous confidence in, and the IP that we're mining, including all the sequels that we're doing, is second to none. Yeah, Mike, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I mean, I thought that that's kind of what they were doing already. Like this, I think this is like the third or fourth time that Bob Iger has said, "Hey, so we're decreasing the output. Obviously, it's been quantity, but we need to focus on quality." I'm like, so two things. That proves that everyone that said that you were putting out quantity over quality was right. All the people that you were lying to and gaslighting, saying, no, we've always been dedicated to making good stuff, we're just making less of it right now, everybody was right. And you only do this if you're starting to lose money. So that's another reason to like look at this and go, the writing's on the wall. But the other part of it is like, what happened to this super exciting, awesome multiverse project that they totally had planned out, that they were like, no, we know exactly where we want to go and what we want to do and all this stuff. They don't have anything that they talk about that they're excited for anymore. Like, it just kind of feels like at this point, they're just throwing things out there. Like, yeah, I guess we're doing a Captain America movie now, and then they're like, oh man, now we have like rumors. Oh, could Robert Downey Jr. come back? Oh man, maybe we'll get Chris Evans to come back too. And it's like, yeah, but you guys don't need any of that. Like, you never did. But like the fact is, like, it's obvious at this point now that everybody that criticized you was correct. That everybody that said you were doing too much, that it didn't make any sense, that you were just pumping out and churning out stuff, that it was getting overwhelming for a lot of people. Because I know people that go, I don't even know what Marvel movie's out anymore. I don't even know which one to go see, which one's showing anymore. I used to know. I don't even know what's coming out anymore half the time because it was so much. But for them to say like, yeah, we're only going to do like at most 2 to 3 a year. 3 Marvel movies in a year is still a lot of fucking movies. And 2 shows a year is still a lot of shows because they're supposed to be all connected and all working on each other. And if you didn't watch Loki, you have no idea why Kang is around. Like, I don't know. It's just a mess. It feels like this is supposed to be a good thing, but it feels like they're just saying, hey, we're going to keep doing the same stuff we've been doing. We just won't triple down on making more of it. We'll just stick with what we were already doing. And I think that's a really weird cope for them.
What I found amazing was that first part there. They're going to drop the number to at most 3 a year. How many movies per year was Marvel producing prior to Endgame and Infinity War per year?
I think they were making 2 to 3. That's
no, it was just 2.
Was it just 2?
It used to be 1, and they bumped it to 2. So by the time Endgame came along, it was 2. I believe that year we got 3 with Endgame, Spider-Man, and Black Widow. I think that was the first of the 3 years.
Yep.
And then after that, it was 3 a year. Last year we got 3. We got Guardians, Ant-Man, and the Marvels. So you can't drop a number that hits the max you've been doing all year. And then to 2 a year, you wish they had produced some good ones to finally go over it. I mean, at best you go to Netflix, and when you had Daredevil and another series. They produced quite a bit, and they were quality for the most part up front. Again, this is Bob Iger. This is politician Bob. He's speaking to shareholders who don't know anything about the products that Disney puts out, because a lot of these shareholders are your hedge funds, and I'm not the one to talk about business, but it's most of the shareholders are investment companies and not people. And so he's speaking to these people who don't care about this. And so you just feel that. And, the more I think about what's coming out of, there's one way to save Disney at this moment. There's one way Bob Iger can save Disney. And this is how it is. And we talk about it all the time, but it's authenticity. Tell us where you screwed up. Just come and say, look, let's be real. Over the last few years, we've made mistakes with Marvel.
Yeah.
You know, we went to characters after the great success we had with Endgame, and we went to characters and stories that you're just not familiar with. You know,
Yep.
Shang-Chi. I know you don't know who Shang-Chi was, but we made a comic book that none of you watched. Ms.
Yeah.
Marvel. You know, not only did we take a comic book character that's relatively new, and then change her powers on you.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. You know, not focusing on story was a mistake. Focusing too much on diversity was a mistake. That's what, you know, to me, that's what's sorely missing, not only in entertainment, but in the world in general, is
Yes.
no one's willing to admit a mistake. Politics, for crying out loud. No one can ever admit a mistake in politics. And I think we as people are starting to get wise to that. And and I'm frustrated as hell. And you know, I just want someone to admit a mistake. Is that so much to ask?
I don't think it is at this point. I mean, here's the thing. Admitting a mistake means that you're going to correct your behavior, and two, it means that the path you were on was not the correct one. And I don't think that's where it's really difficult, is like, I don't think that these people can admit that they're wrong, because it's become akin to like a religious belief at this point. Well, no, we're on the right track. We're making the right choices. We're making the world a better place. This is important. And so like we can never admit that this crusade that we're on is wrong and destructive and damaging our brand and stuff. And I also think that this is the other part of it that is really important. Like you said, Disney is no longer beholden to their customers. They're beholden to their shareholders. And if these hedge funds and these companies that invest in them don't even watch the product that they're pumping out, then all they see is Disney shuffling numbers. All they see is numbers. And you know, it would be one thing. It's like, because if you actually let somebody that watches your product look at it and has a stake in your company and says, why are your movies so bad? Like, what's going on with these? Like, why is the quality of your stuff so bad right now? What's going on? But if they're not watching the stuff, then all they see is numbers, and Disney lying to them about numbers and saying, oh no, I know it looks like this to you guys, but we promise it'll be this or it'll be that. And the reality is, like, we're the people that make their company profitable. If we don't go see your movies, you lose money. If we don't go to your parks, you lose money. If we don't buy your merch, you lose money. And it's like, it does, at some point that money stops coming in, like, you know. And I just don't understand why they can't, like you said, why they can't admit wrongdoing unless there is something going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing, that is justifying to them that they're on the right track. Whether it's you know, go ahead.
Yeah, the chat is bringing up like ESG and BlackRock and all these you know, these loans and stuff. You know, I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in these things in terms of the workings of financing in the big studio system. But I do know, they're taking loans out to make these movies. And when a movie loses $150 million, you know, at some point the credit card's going to run out. Not only is the credit card going to run out, but then they're going to want their money back. Yeah.
Unless the conversation is, and this is, as a gamer, this has been happening in gaming, you know, recently with DEI and a lot of these DEI consultants and BlackRock being behind some of these DEI consultants and stuff. If your largest investors are saying to you, hey, we will keep giving you money, and we know that right now it doesn't seem like this is working for you, but we'll keep giving you the loans, we'll keep giving you the money that you need, just stay the course. And that's all they can parrot to people, is we just have to stay the course. Then maybe that's what's driving these companies. I don't know. I can't say for sure, because I'm not in privy to these deals. But that's the thing. If you know, Alan, if you start a company and somebody goes, I'll invest in your company and give you all the money you need, and you go, cool, I failed at my business venture, and they go, don't worry about it, Alan, I'll give you more money. Don't worry about paying me back. Just stay the course. This will work eventually. We promise you're changing the world, or you're making things better. You're doing the right thing. You know, then maybe that's where they're at right now, and maybe that's why they're not worried, because any other company in the world that I can think of that exists this way goes under when you stop making profit. And goes under when you start losing money hand over fist, and it's not to invest in some infrastructure that's going to carry you forward in the future, you know? So I don't understand it.
Yeah, it just baffles me. I mean, look, there's making a movie for $200 million is very different than making a movie for $2 million.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And sometimes having too much money makes you lazy. Lazy in
Yes.
the makes you frivolous in the way you spend your money, and lazy in your creativity in telling that story.
Yep.
Versus $2 million, where you have to scrap and scrape and to be innovative to get the shot you want, or to get
Yep.
the stunt you want, or the special effect that you want, or even to tell the story that you want. There's something about a passionate filmmaker that has to struggle to make a film that's different than a filmmaker who's given the unlimited credit card to tell the story that they want. And we're seeing it, and this is the epidemic problem that's going across the big studios, and why we're not getting movies that will draw people in, and why good movies. Look, we said The Fall Guy was a good movie, but it's the state that the industry is in that's keeping most people from wanting to see it, wanting to make it a success.
Yeah, the right the ship moment would be, okay, and these movies aren't making as much money as we hoped they would, but the audience feedback has been positive. So let's go back to making mid-range, mid-budget movies and lower budget movies that are focused on quality, and maybe we'll start to see a return on that because it'll draw people back into seeing films again. That's what your answer should be, but instead, like you said, they're just like, let's just spend another $200 million on a film. And I've said this before many times, and I've learned a lot working the independent scene, and I'm still new. We're still a very small, young company, but I have learned a lot and hear from so many people in the industry, from actors to directors of photography to special effects people. They're like, I would work for so much less if it meant I got to work on something that meant something to me. If it meant I got to work on a project that was actually creative and innovative and trying. There are so many people in the company or in the industry that will say, hey man, or used to work in the industry, because that's another thing. That's a whole nother untapped market. People that used to work in the industry that go, you know what? I would come back to work if it meant that I was working on a project that had a bunch of people that were hungry to make good films again. And we've run into that ourselves where people go, oh my gosh, we're just excited to see you guys trying to put out something quality. Even if you guys don't have very much money, we'll help. We'll figure it out. We've had, animation studios talk to us, or we've talked to animation studios about projects that we're trying to work on and say, yeah, we would cut you deals on things if it meant that we could work on a cool project with you guys. They want to see good movies happen. People in the industry want to work on creative projects again. That's why they get into it. They're not doing it it's not just to make money. It's also to make something that they can be proud of and excited about at the end of the day. And that's not what's happening in these massive companies.
Well, ironically, if someone's going to give you $200 million to make a movie, your vision is gone, because they don't care about your vision. They care about that you're going to get that $2 million back. Yep. And they so not believe in your vision that they will tell you what you're doing wrong, and they will take your vision away from you. And ultimately make the story that they think will earn that $200 million back. And so working for Hollywood nowadays, unless you're a Christopher Nolan, your vision is not your vision, and you don't have that kind of carte blanche. And again, that's why Hollywood is not the dream.
Nope,
all right, so let's go to your comments real quick, and then we have our guests coming up. From Ken Duell, gifted 5 Film Threat memberships. Thank you very much. Thank you for that, for your support. TT, 2 movies a year is still too many for them. Talking about Marvel there. All new, all different, all lame, and gay Avengers. Okay. And from Rebel, never forget, no one who pays to see Marvel movies is interested in the Shivengers movie.
Shivengers movie. Yeah.
All right. From Flav, Deadpool will carry them through some of this year. Then they're screwed. Yeah. Let's see. From Aaron, Disney. We shot ourselves in one foot. Now we shot ourselves in one foot. Now we'll shoot the other. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. We're getting a little eschatological here. From Flav, Disney, we hear you. We've taken Imodium, and now instead of diarrhea, just a few solid stools a year. Yeah, there you go. That's a great way to look at it. From Maniac, this isn't about the scripts or the stories. This is about left versus right. You know, Maniac, I appreciate the direction you're taking things. I will say this: it's you can make good movies that you don't agree with. You can make good movies that audience may not agree with. You can make activist movies even. There are ways, nuanced ways of telling stories from your perspective to get your message across, get your passionate message across. But what we've lost recently is the ability to tell a story creatively and not make it feel like a lecture, but to actually tell a story that makes you think. Whether you agree with it or not, if it makes you think, then it's succeeded, regardless of where the politics come from. But when it becomes that lecture, when it becomes quote unquote woke, that's the problem. Because no one wants to sit there in the theater, spend $20 on a ticket to be lectured to and to be shamed for being who you are.
And I will say this, just as a side with politics, we work with a lot of people on a lot of different political spectrums, and we have conversations with people that come onto our team because like we're like, listen, politics don't matter to us. You know, some of us are very conservative, some of us are Trump supporters, some of us are very apolitical, whatever the spectrum is. We tell people, if that's going to be a problem for you, it's okay for you to leave. We're not going to fire you over your politics, but it's okay. But if politics is so important to you, you can't work with us. We want you to know what you're getting into before you do. And we've had a couple people say, okay, cool, thanks. I don't really want to work with you guys. Most people say, you know what? I don't care. We probably don't agree. We probably don't vote for the same person. But at the end of the day, we just want to make a really good movie, and that's what matters to us, and that's what we want to do. And so, like, politics doesn't factor into it, and that's the rare thing. That's what's missing from things. And the other part of it is, and I know Alan will agree with this, there's a reason, and we've used this conversation in Epic vs. Studios a lot, there's a reason Jesus told parables. Because, like, it's one thing to preach to an audience, here's the lesson you have to learn. And it's another thing to tell a story to somebody, and that person enjoys that story, and they think on that story, and they digest that story. And now, once they get the point of the story, once they've came up with their own interpretation, that idea will never leave them because they've fostered that idea. Versus me telling somebody, this is the thing you have to do, and this is how it is, and they can only speculate on whether that's the truth. If I tell a child that the stove is hot and not to touch it, they just have to go on the fact that they trust that I'm an authority on that situation. But if they touch the stove and learn that it's hot for themselves, they'll never touch it again. And that's part of what storytelling is you feed an idea and let people come to their own conclusions, and then those ideas will last far longer than being told what they're supposed to feel on it. That's what actually builds nostalgia too. So
yeah,
I wanted to address that.
Yeah. The greatest example I have is Star Trek. I probably disagreed with maybe 25 to 30% of Star Trek, but I still love Star Trek. And and Star Trek made me rethink my positions. It's possible to get that out there. Last super chat. We'll get to the rest after the interview, but this is from Brock Samsonite for 10. Thank you. This is to gore Chris's medical bills. I'm sure Chris appreciates that. Okay, let's pivot here for a second. We have a guest, and I just need to make sure. Okay, deselect. There we go. And let's.
You can read these questions if you can't see them.
Hi, Dan. How you doing?
Hey, Alan. How are you?
Good. Hey, it's great to have you on. I know you have a movie to promote, but also I want to talk to you about Slam Dance when it's over. But let me get you in the proper position here. Dan, you're here to talk about 18 and a half. The movie came out a while ago, but it's on DVD now, or is it? Yes, it's on DVD now.
DVD.
You sent me the making of DVD, which is one of the things I want to talk about. Yeah. And the making of DVD is actually longer than the movie itself, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. The making of documentary, which is on the DVD. But yes, it is like all good making of docs. It is a half hour longer than the film itself.
Yeah. So tell us about 18 and a half, and then I want to talk about the making of, because there's some interesting things.
Yeah, so 18 and a half is a Watergate comedy thriller about a young woman in the Nixon White House who gets a hold of the missing 18 and a half minute gap in the Watergate tapes, and she tries to leak it to a reporter, and then naturally they run afoul of hippie swingers and nefarious people out to get them. So it's a fun movie. It stars Willa Fitzgerald and John Magaro, Richard Kind, Vondi Curtis Hall, Kathy Curtin. It's got naturally Bruce Campbell as the voice of Nixon, and
Ted Raimi in there,
and Ted Raimi as one of the other voices, and John Cryer as the voice of Haldeman. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and a cameo by Lloyd Kaufman from Troma, because why not? Literally, he insisted. So it's a fun movie, and we shot it we started shooting March 3rd, 2020. What could possibly go wrong in March of 2020? And of course there was a global pandemic that hit on our 11th day, so we had to shut down for 6 months. So we took this 6-month healthy hiatus, and then came back and shot the rest of it once all the protocols came into place. So our making of kind of goes into a lot of what was going on, like as the pandemic was hitting, a little indie film trying to make a movie. But anyway, as you know, the film then played at about 25 festivals, including one that you were on the jury of. And thanks for that big award there, Alan.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's this is a testament. I mean, you've been fairly prolific when it comes to indie films, and
thank you.
And is this one of the biggest ones you've done in terms of success? Or
I think in terms of success, yeah, I think it's my most successful creatively, but also commercially, because then we went on to do a 60-city theatrical release starting in 2022, I think, around then, and then it played on Star. It's been playing on Stars regularly, and then we also sold it to 11 airlines around the world, on like every continent around the world. There's someone who's flying around watching the movie, and then this DVD deal, and as of today, the DVD has sold to 300 public libraries all across America in almost every state, which is a weird market I didn't even know existed until about 2 weeks ago. So. But it's cool.
Yeah, let me talk about the DVD, because and the 2-hour making of, because I think for me personally, it was like this making of is rich in resources for an indie filmmaker. You guys definitely went through a lot. One of the things I want to ask you that's brought up in the DVD, but it's it was your Kickstarter, your crowdfunding tactics, because you did something that I didn't think. I kind of think of these crowdfunders as you're funding the entire movie, but you kind of approached it from using it to get over that first hurdle. And can you talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always say it's Kickstarter, not Kick Finisher. You should really only try to, if you can raise 10 or 15% of your budget that way, that's great. And then I kind of use it, and this particular campaign we did on Seed and Spark, but I've used Kickstarter on other campaigns. It's about the same. But really, it's kind of a Trojan horse to try to raise bigger amounts of money. I always say, like, your old bass player buddy from college, Dave, gives you $40, but then he puts the goofy picture of Nixon and him photoshopped as Elvis on his Facebook page. And then his, brother-in-law, the Silicon Valley investor, says, "That's cool. I'll give you $10,000, as an equity investor," or something like that. And, and then you get like 300 people, on your team, and then they've got suggestions and ideas for more money. So it's really, I think when you're doing a feature, with a short, you can maybe raise your whole budget through crowdfunding. But for a feature, if you can just raise that small percentage, that nugget, it's really the people getting involved that are the real resource and advantage to it. And that's kind of how you get that momentum. I always say the hardest person to convince that you're making a movie is yourself. And once you've gone through a crowdfunding campaign, then you're now sort of morally obligated to all these people to actually finish making the movie or start making the movie. And so it's more of a psychological thing than a financial thing. But and then have fun with it too. That's the other thing too, which is some people approach these things as, oh my God, what a drag! I've got to ask for money. But if you're having fun, and we were doing, we were putting people's names in Nixon audio tapes, and they were posting those on Instagram, and we were having fun with the whole process, and which in a weird way did kind of influence kind of how we made the movie and the tone and the scope of the film itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you brought up the pandemic. I believe in the documentary it said you were 4 days away from finishing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you had to shut down.
Exactly. And we had just found out that we were pretty much the last film shooting in North America, and we were like, oh my God, what does everyone else know that we don't know? Because we were pretty isolated. We were shooting on the tip of Long Island at my friend Terry's motel, and it was 3 hours from New York City, so we weren't really sure what was going on in the rest of the world. And then and then we realized, oh yeah, we got to shut down.
I know that's weird, because you guys were in a bubble and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, we didn't even know. We didn't know. Yeah, that term hadn't quite been invented yet for what we were doing. But yeah, I mean, we were pretty safe. It was pretty much of a bubble, but it was but that we knew we couldn't have gone that extra 4 days because we had a lot more cast coming in for those last 4 days for the schedule, and it was just getting too complicated to bring people out. But then what happened was, like, a third of our crew, Terry said, hey, if you guys want to stay at this motel, no one else is coming, so why don't you guys just stay here? And these were all like the single Brooklyn hipster types. And if you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, New York City was kind of the epicenter in the US anyway. And so they were like, yeah, we don't want to go back to New York. So a third of them stayed there for like over 2 months. And my DP, Elle Schneider, she stayed for 6 months. I think she's still there. I haven't seen her since. Some of us with families, we had to come home, but they all stayed and kind of created their own little weird artist in residency program, because they still had the camera, because we never got a chance to return the camera either. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. You had all the equipment and couldn't return it. So,
So they were shooting shorts, they were shooting music videos, they were having a blast, and eating all of our leftover product placement Omaha steaks too. That's how they survived. Otherwise, they would have eaten the key grip.
There
and then also, what was it? How much sweating were you doing? How long was it until you could finish shooting?
It was 6 months. It was 6 months that we took a break, and then we were one of the first films that was kind of back in production using the SAG and DGA protocols, masks and shields and all that. But I think what really helped was that about 2 months into the pandemic, so really the heart of it in like May or June of that year, we realized that one of the things we were going to do in post-production we could do then, which was record the 18.5-minute gap because it was all audio anyway, so it was about an 18.5-minute little mini radio play kind of within the thing. And Bruce Campbell, he was in Oregon, John Cryer was in LA, Ted was kind of stuck in Canada with some new girlfriend, but he was stuck there, and a couple of them had decent microphones. We're like, you know what, there's this new thing called Zoom, why don't we just do it over Zoom? And they were all like, yeah, because actors were sitting around with nothing to do. They couldn't, they weren't acting, and it was great. So we did it over 2 days. We recorded them over Zoom. To this day, I've never met Bruce in person. I've met him on Zoom. But it was really exciting because, like, at a time when the whole creative world had shut down, we were still making part of our movie. And I think that was a huge shot in the arm, literally, to everyone on the cast and crew. Like, oh, this crazy Mirvish guy's still making this movie. I guess we're still on. I guess we'll come back and we'll finish it. And meanwhile, my composer Luis Guerra, who lives just a few blocks away from me in LA, he was starting to work with musicians, also kind of stuck around the world. In Mexico City, there was a group of musicians. In Brazil. And so we were doing a lot of music because musicians couldn't do anything then either. And so all of a sudden we were like writing all these new bossa nova tracks, and having like a studio in Brazil record them. We're like, this is awesome, We should have a pandemic all the time. But it was, but that was the key. Like, other than that and making sourdough, and then I was editing the film too, editing the footage that we had, which was about 80% of the movie at least. And then, then we could kind of tweak the script for when we would come back and make it better. Like, oh, we need this, we don't need that. And so I think creatively, it if anything, it certainly didn't hurt. It maybe helped.
What's cool that you were editing and making sourdough at the same time. And,
well, you got to. I mean, you've got those. It's got to rise for 2 hours. All right, well, let's cut some scenes.
Exactly. Well, Mike here, my co-host, he's actually starting his own production company. They're kind of in the early stages of that. Mike, do you have a question?
For your loss.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's sometimes what it feels like. I always love hearing from independent people, especially with the crowdfunding thing, because I think that's I wouldn't say new, but I think it's a untapped market sometimes for film, because I think people get intimidated by it, or like you said, or even the emotional aspect of it. Once you've got that money, you kind of have all these people looking at you and stuff like that. Like, for you going forward, what do you think for independents the best way to go about getting films made or getting projects off the ground is? What would you give advice to newer independents or people that are wanting to get into this? What would you say to say, hey, this is the best way to get started or get kind of things off the ground or get your feet in the door?
Yeah, I think, my mantra has always been, it's better to make the low budget movie than wait to try to make the bigger budget version, because and I've gone down that road with other projects in the past where you're waiting for the perfect financing, you're waiting for the perfect cast. I mean, even on 18 and a half, we, just forgetting about the pandemic, but we still, we were a week, 4 days into shooting, and we didn't know who our second 2 leads were going to be. Because we hadn't cast them yet, because someone had dropped out and things were happening. But, we set that start date, and that was key. I mean, that was something I learned from Robert Altman years ago. Set a start date, tell everyone the train's leaving the station, you're making this movie. And then again, if you believe it, other people will start to believe it too. And eventually we got an amazing cast and got Bondi Curtis Hall and Kathy Curtin with 36 hours notice. But if we hadn't really set a start date and said, hey, we're going to make this movie, we probably never would have made the movie to this day, because the pandemic was right around the corner. So I think that's key, is to make the movie with the resources you have, with the friends you have, with the money you have. Don't wait around for, Hollywood to answer your door when you come knocking, because they keep changing their address. They keep moving around. And
that's true.
So stop knocking and just make your own movie. That's kind of been my thing. And Alan, I think, knows I wrote a book called The Cheerful Subversive's Guide to Independent Filmmaking, which I strongly recommend everyone should buy, and then buy another copy for their friends.
There you go.
But so that's but yeah, that's one of the big things in there, is set a start date and say you're making the movie. And and if you get a fancy pants name actor, great. But if you don't, that's okay. Just make the movie.
Yeah,
very cool.
I mean, John McGarrow did pretty good after that with
exactly. Yeah. And then right after our film, he did Past Lives, and Mr. Oscar. Well, Oscar nominated.
Oscar-nominated film, best picture. All right. We had some questions from the audience. Davina Duckworth, thanks so much, Dan. It's great to hear about indie filmmaking. Absolutely. From Krizik, a lot of people got into bread making during the pandemic. I got into Instant Pot during the pandemic. From AD Ellis on Rumble, what was behind the writing of what was the missing tape, the missing 18 and a half minutes, and how did the process of recording the audio over Zoom affect the outcome of the sound?
Right. So the process of writing it, because I mean, in real life, nobody knows what's on that tape. It is still missing to this day. Nobody knows who erased it, why it was erased, what was on it. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of theories about it. But, but if you're doing historical fiction, it kind of frees you up to put whatever you want on there. There is no wrong answer. And so what we did is we looked at a lot of looked and listened to a lot of other Nixon tapes that were not deleted, which, you know, there's tons of them.
Did you
out
go to the
there.
library for that, by the way?
Yeah, we worked. I went to the Nixon Library at one point, but I also went to. We talked to people at the Miller Center at the University of Virginia. They're one of the repositories of Nixon tapes, and they were really helpful. But a lot of the stuff is online too. Weirdly, very little of it has been transcribed for odd legal reasons, but you can hear the tapes, and that kind of gets into. So we were able to kind of tweak what we wanted the tape to say to fit the plot and the characters that we had, and that was while still being realistic and taking phrasing from real Nixon things. And then that kind of speaks to the audio quality is when we listen to the tapes, you know, and I had John and Ted and Bruce listen to the tapes as well. You know, they're not very good quality. And also the mic, everyone was mic'd differently. So it actually meant that doing it on Zoom was with everyone having different kind of mics was fine. You know, it was a little bit more complicated than just doing it like a regular Zoom call. We had each guy, each of the actors record. We could see and hear each other on Zoom live. Then they also recorded on like Voice Record Pro, which is like an app on your phone, or QuickTime or something like that. Slightly better versions of it, and then they would email those files to me after our sessions, and then I would sync them up to the Zoom track. But actually, the Zoom tracks themselves were almost as good as what we got off of the quote unquote higher quality stuff. And then our post production, we kind of futzed everything anyway and made it sound kind of futzy. But what was interesting was the day before we recorded, we were all listening to the part of the Nixon tape that's right after it got deleted, because it's part of a 2-hour tape, just to kind of get the rhythm and the tone and the feel of that room. And what we realized was about 2 minutes after the deletion, Nixon and Haldeman start talking about this movie that they had just seen that weekend called, what is it now? It was a Robert Redford film from 1972.
3 days ago.
It was a heist. It's like a goofy heist movie. Let me just see, Redford heist movie, 1972. Anyway, and they're talking about the Hot Rock. That's what it is, the Hot Rock, which is a crazy, weird, odd movie, and it's good. Anyway, and they're laughing about this movie because it's a heist gone wrong, and they're like, just like the Watergate thing. And this is like 3 days after the break-in, and we're just like, oh my God, we're the first people to actually hear this, because and we researched, nobody had ever mentioned that they're laughing about Watergate right after the 18.5-minute gap, because nobody ever listened to that part of the tape, because they weren't really talking about Watergate. And so we made this interesting historical discovery just by listening to the tapes. And so if you go to the end, spoiler alert, in our end credits, we have Bruce and John and Ted do a version of Nixon talking about Redford and the Hot Rock. And, you know, and of course the irony was that, you know, Redford would be in All the President's Men 2 years later. And
Awesome.
yeah, okay. So some weird stuff like that, where what was real and what was fiction kind of got mixed around.
That was a weird time. As a kid, that's my first memory of a president. His resignation.
Exactly.
From A.B. Ellis, Lloyd Kaufman has a role in your film. What influence has he had on your work, on your filmmaking career, and Slamdance? We'll talk about Slamdance right after this. So,
sure. Well, Lloyd is, you know, we've known Lloyd for well over 20 years. I think starting with, because he distributed Cannibal the Musical, Trey Parker and Matt Stone's film, which was kind of the precursor to Slamdance. They showed that in Park City in 1994, and we had heard about those guys, and that was kind of what influenced Slamdance. And then a few years later, once they got big with South Park, then Troma picked up Cannibal the Musical, and we did a big retrospective screening of it in Park City with Trey and Matt and Lloyd, and kind of that was how we first got to know him. And he would always show up in Park City doing Troma dance and things like that, and we would do events with him. So he was actually the reason he's in the movie is because he was emailing me that winter to say, "Hey Dan, I'm going to be in Park City. Are you guys doing Slam Dance and da da da?" And I said no. I that year I thought I thought we were going to be shooting the movie then. So I said no. I think I'm shooting this movie in New York. Great, can I be in it? And I was like, you can't say no to Lloyd. It's rude. So that's why he's in the movie. You know.
All right. Well, then that's why I didn't see you at Slam Dance that year.
Yeah.
That was my only time at Sundance.
Right. But the crazy thing is, though, is after we shot the movie, like a year later, we're at the Tallgrass Film Festival in Wichita, and Lloyd is there with Pat, his wife. And they're telling me this crazy story about how Lloyd was actually at the Nixon White House because he was invited to Nixon's daughter's wedding because he was like college friends with the groom. And he and Lloyd hitchhiked there and his date was Carolyn McCarthy, who later became Congresswoman. And so I went into the National Archives and found a picture of, I think, Lloyd at the Nixon wedding, which is just crazy. Like,
that's crazy.
And why he didn't tell me that when we were shooting the movie, I don't know, but he waited a year. Anyway, so that's on the DVD. That's on the DVD. You'll see that.
In fact, Crispy asks, where can I find the documentary? I'll definitely watch it.
You can find it wherever fine DVDs are sold, or go to your local library because it's at a lot of libraries too, as I just discovered.
I assume it's on Amazon.
But yeah, it's on Amazon. It's Target on their website. You can order it, and it's not that expensive. It's like $14 or something. So, and it's old school, vintage. It's not even Blu-ray. It's better than Blu-ray. It's just Ray.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the old school format.
Old school. So, yeah.
So one thing I did want to talk to you about, because you are one of the founders of Slam Dance, the big news came out a week ago, actually, that Slam Dance is moving out of Park City and coming to Los Angeles. And I don't know how involved you are with Slam Dance these days, but tell us about the move, and are you giving us your thoughts about it, or do you have some kind of inside information?
No. It's well, first of all, I'm not as involved with Slam Dance anymore. But still a little bit. I was there this year, and I do an opening night poem every year, and I'm kind of a de facto mentor for a lot of the new filmmakers, and I hosted a few screenings, so I still do get involved, when they need me, but it's largely programmed by alumni, which is great because we now have 30 years of alumni, and not too shabby alumni, by the way. From Chris Nolan, Bong Joon-ho, Ryan Johnson, the Russo brothers, the late Lynn Shelton, Sean Baker, Safdie brothers, Gina Prince Bywood. It's pretty impressive list of folks. But for those who don't know Slam Dance, just look up some of those names, and we'll see. But anyway, it's funny that everyone's like, oh my God, Slam Dance is moving to LA. We've been talking about this for 29 years. It started in 1996.
I don't doubt that.
Year, we were like, maybe we should move to LA, because most of us live in LA. Our headquarters is in LA. So it's not that for us, and we've events in LA almost every year, like incrementally, over the years. We did a really nice thing at Agbo Studios, the Russo brothers studio in downtown LA just last summer. We were like a 3-day event there. And we were like, wow, people are coming to this. It's a really cool space. The Russos are great. They've been great supporters over the years. So, but the impetus to move was really, and every year we would kind of reevaluate. Are we in the right place? Are we at the right time? Should we keep doing this? And every year it was like, yes, we should stay in Park City. This year it was, no, it's too expensive. We had just gotten we were back at the Yarrow Hotel, which I know which was our venue, which was our main venue for our first 2 years. And then Sundance kicked us out after 1996. And then we were up at the Treasure Mountain Inn. But that was getting too expensive. And then Sundance has really cut down in the last couple of years, sort of post-pandemic. And because people weren't coming and everything was getting more expensive. So they abandoned the Yarrow. They weren't going to use it last year. So we went in and we had a great time there, and it was a great venue and a great location. And then Sundance was like, ah, crap, you Slamdance guys figured it out. You know, you're back here again. And so they had booked it then for next year. So we really didn't have like an obvious venue to go back to for next year. And it really, the price of Park City, I mean, it is the most expensive city in America during the height of ski season. And people in Park City don't particularly like Sundance or Slamdance being there at that time of year, because we take all the hotel spots and condo spots that they want skiers to be in. So it's a weird, there's always been this weird dynamic there. And you know, and look, Sundance, not for nothing, they've been, you know, there's all kinds of rumors about they're taking bids from other cities. They're thinking of their contract with Park City runs out after next year, so they may go to who knows where, Denver or you know, Santa Fe. Nobody knows, or they may stay where they are. But we're just like, you know what, for us, let's just go to LA next year. We know how to do events here. We live here. It's cheaper. You know, I'm going to have half the filmmakers living in my garage next year, I'm sure. It's the one downside, but hey, more the merrier, you know? Yeah,
no, because Chris and I have been talking, I mean, every year it's, do we need to go to Sundance?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's at the weird time of the year. It's in January. And so the films are, you know, it's the beginning of the year. The films are not being talked about enough. And we soon found out is that after that first weekend, people left. Everyone left.
Yeah.
And
really weird.
Yeah. And it just seemed like, you guys moving to LA was just made a whole lot of sense. And, you know, and I think you can, you know, bring a lot more eyes to Slamdance itself. Definitely a lot more people into the theater.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Because as you know, I mean, in Park City, honestly, the theaters that we did have were always tiny and packed. And so it's not like that many people are actually seeing the films in Park City. And over the years, fewer sort of deals were being made. Fewer executives were in Park City. Like you said, like the last few years, people were leaving after that first weekend. So hang on a second, why are we still all hanging around here? And now the town's empty. Like that just, even Sundance this year shut down the Eccles after that Wednesday. And we were just like, wait, what? That's you know, wow. Park City built that location for Sundance, you know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of a slap in the face to them. So
that's, wow. So
it's crazy. And then meanwhile, I mean, LA, you know, there are still some good festivals in LA, but there's no, you know, LA Film Festival's gone, Outfest is gone. Like, it's not like LA has some great festival that we're, you know, upsetting. So, or big festival, you know, there's plenty of room for lots here.
Absolutely. Okay. Ron Phelps says, I hear Slamdance and I get warm and fuzzies. Let me ask you this, especially for Mike, but what would you say is the kind of film Slamdance is looking for people wanting to possibly submit their film to you?
It's funny because, and you may have a slightly different opinion of this as an objective observer, but we've never really had a quote unquote Slamdance film, you know, model in mind. I mean, we've shown dramas, comedies, narrative fiction, documentaries, international films, national films, of all kind. We tend to mix them around as opposed to kind of ghettoizing like world versus US, which Sundance and a lot of other festivals do. So, you know, we'll have Bong Joon-ho showing his film next to some guy from Iowa. So that's a little bit different. But I think that the one key thing is some sort of originality. You know, that I think is the one mark of every Slamdance film, is that they're doing something original. Maybe the tone, the content, the style. There's at least some element to it that people haven't seen before. But also because the focus, at least for the main competition, is first-time directors without distribution, is that they tend to be, sometimes they're a little rough around the edges, but you can definitely see, oh, this filmmaker has something interesting that we want to see what their next film is. And, you know, and if you think about some of our more successful filmmakers, you don't remember the Russo brothers' first film Pieces. You know, hardly anyone has seen Nolan's Following, or Ryan Johnson's Evil Demon Golf Ball from Hell. But we could see in all those films, oh, this is a filmmaker to watch. And I think, and there's something there. And because all of our programming is done by alumni filmmakers, like we're looking at it through the lens of another filmmaker. And I think that has lent a slightly different, take on our programming choices compared to Sundance or other festivals.
Yeah, I like how you describe it, because I always thought Slamdance was the anti-Sundance. But I like the fact that whenever I see a Slamdance movie, there's something different about it. There's something odd about it. There's something that just you realize why they're not getting the big theatrical, because they're that different. And to give a filmmaker a chance is so important. And I think that's the main reason why Slamdance exists.
Yeah, thanks. No, I mean, you said it best. That should go on the poster, Alan. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of people still think it's the anti-Sundance. If anything, it's the pre-Sundance. Because so many of our filmmakers, we show their first film, but then their second film will play at Sundance, or
from Nolan, I think it was Memento that ultimately got to.
Yep, exactly. Or like Napoleon Dynamite, we showed the short Palooka. That I literally introduced Jared to the producers that then gave him the money to make the feature Napoleon Dynamite, and the next year that played at Sundance. So,
very cool.
So that's another way of looking at it, which I don't know that Sundance has ever quite appreciated about us, but whatever.
I know you would think, why would they treat you like that? That's the thing.
If you don't mind, I got another question.
Go ahead.
I'm just really big on. I mean, obviously for myself, but I'm really big on like encouraging other people, because I feel like, a lot of people get really discouraged, or they get worried, or like you said, I really appreciated what you said about like, just go out and do, like, instead of worrying about making the perfect storm happen to make a movie. Would you say, like, in your opinion, that the independent scene is like growing at like a pretty rapid pace? Have you noticed like an uptick in people that are like trying to get into the independent scene? And even with that, like, is there something different about like this next generation of like filmmakers and people that are trying to get into the independent scene that is like encouraging to you or exciting to you?
It's interesting. I do a lot of guest lecturing at film schools, and I've started teaching at Chapman a little bit this year. And let's hear it, Alan, for those.
I know you're in my area.
I know.
There you go.
Go Dodge.
And the weird thing is, I think 10 years ago, if you'd asked a room full of film students, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a director. That's how everyone talked, right?
Yeah.
Their first day in film school. You ask them now, and like at least 50% say, I want to be a showrunner. And I think that is a big fundamental change, is that so many more people want to get into episodic, TV work, which is just culturally very different from film. It's more about the writer, and the writer becomes the producer, and as opposed to indie features where it's much more director driven or producer driven, but not so much writer driven. So in that regard, I think fewer people are seeking out fame and fortune in independent filmmaking.
Interesting.
But on the other hand, you've got 1 billion people making TikToks every day. And guess what? They're all filmmakers. They may not think about it, and Hollywood certainly doesn't think about them as filmmakers, but that's exactly what they are. And and a good indie feature is just, 210 TikToks strung together. That's the length of a movie. So people are learning the tools of filmmaking and the storytelling, much earlier, when they're like 5 years old. They're making better TikToks than half the indie films coming out of Sundance. So I think that's different. But whether those people are even in that headspace to say, oh, okay, now I'm going to make an indie feature, I don't know that it's any more or less or about the same. I think in terms of numbers of submissions and things like that, it's kind of been remarkably steady over the last few years. But I think it's because there's all these like countervailing influence. Some people are going to TV. Some people are staying in TikToks, and then there's a bunch of people who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to get rich and famous making independent films that nobody sees, you know. But that's the point of independent film, is it's not about making money. It's not, and it shouldn't be. It's about making art, you know, maybe small a art, but you know, it's the one, you know, because if you're making like an episodic show, you're answering to executives at the studio and the network and the this and the that, and it's, you know, it's going to get really watered down. And there's not, and Hollywood isn't making features other than, you know, a couple, you know, superhero movies every year.
All adaptations.
They're all adaptations. So really, independent film is the one place where you can tell a 90-minute to 110-minute, you know, story in one sitting. And you know, and weirdly enough, you know, I had a filmmaker say to me recently, they just finished their film. They're like, oh, Dan, is it true? I keep hearing this is the worst time ever to be trying to sell an independent film or get it out there. And I was like, yes, but it's always the worst time ever to be doing that. And that's been true for 120 years. People have been making independent films since there were films. And I don't think that this is any worse than ever. I don't think it's any better than ever. You know, what's been great about 18 and a half is we're finding different ways to get the film out there. Like, we've made more money, and probably more people have seen the film on airplanes, you know, than any of my other films, for 100%. And that's because on an airplane, you can't commit to watching an 8-episode series of anything. No, you got 2 hours. Great. You're going to watch an actual movie, you know, and you know what? Those airplanes, they actually pay the filmmakers. Shocking. You know, it's the one place where the market sort of still works. And then, like, weirdly enough, this week, figuring out that, you know, public libraries in Kalamazoo actually will pay you for your DVD, and people are watching them. People are checking them out. So there are these weird markets and ways that people will engage with your film and watch your film in a way that even if you're making an episodic series for Netflix, there's no engagement with the audience. You know, what's great about films and film festivals, and Alan certainly knows this, is it's the last place where you can see a film with an audience. They're gonna, if it's a comedy, they laugh. If it's a drama, they cry. It's a horror film, they shriek. If it's a bad comedy, they shriek. You know, and you can do Q&As and have that interaction with the audience in a way that is never going to happen either making episodics or in making TikToks, for that matter. You know?
Gotcha.
All right.
By the
Well,
way,
thanks, Dan. Go ahead.
I'm about an hour away or an hour and a half away from Kalamazoo. I love that.
Well, there you go. Go to their public library. They have our film.
Yeah, you could rent it there. All right. Well, thanks, Dan. You've been very generous with your time. And
thank you.
Yeah, plug away 18 and a half one more time.
There it is. 18 and a half, available wherever fine DVDs are sold, rented, or checked out. You know,
and not only do you get the movie, but you get a fantastic documentary about film.
2 hour long. Thank you. A fantastic documentary. Is that the line that I can use?
That is. You can quote me on that. Fantastic documentary.
All right.
All right. Awesome, Thanks a lot, Dan.
Great to see you again. Nice to meet you, Mike. Take care.
Nice to meet you too, man.
Bye. All right. Awesome. That was great. I love Dan.
Yeah,
Dan's a big supporter of Film Threat, and I gratefully see him at all our events, and I'm thankful for that. So
that's awesome.
So let's we're gonna go over our final super chats, and we'll close this thing out. We got some great shows coming up, but we'll just go here for Maniac for $10. Mega. The only mistakes are the left. We're going political, are we? Maniac for another 10. You're not an expert, but you opine. You're not an expert, but you opine. Blackright CEO bragged about spending to change minds, and they lost billions when Texas revoked state funding. Yes, Maniac, $10. Free Stellar Blade. I think we can all agree on that one. Thank you for your support. Let's see. From Stitch, member for 8 months. Mike, thanks for helping Alan keep the light on. Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
Happy to be here, man. It's an honor.
I'm glad you're able to join us. For Maniac again. Maniac, it's just I'll read your political chats. The Last of Us versus I have no idea what that one is.
The Last of Us 2.
Oh, The Last of Us 2. Okay, The Last of Us versus Last of Us 2, reality versus agenda. I assume I only play one video game, and I'm ashamed to tell you what it is. From Slayer's 96 DA first, became a YouTube member. Thanks you for joining us. From Slayer again, a member for 3 months. How does that work? You're a new member, yet you're a member for 3 months. Goody Bud trailer delayed tonight, and Hail 199. And then lastly, Jimmy Francis has become a YouTube member. Thanks so much. Hey, we're gonna end this here, but a couple big things to talk about. Friday, Dante is joining us. We're going to talk about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We'll also be talking about Unfrosted, and we will talk about Not Another Church Movie starring Jamie Foxx. And then on Monday, I don't know what. Let me see if we have a topic for Monday yet. But Monday we have Versus. On Wednesday Hollywood on the Rocks is going to be in the evening. The reason is I will be seeing Furiosa for a press screening, and because the embargo lifted, we can talk about it right afterwards. I will tell you, I'm seeing it with someone, but that person said not to mention that they may or may not be there. So we'll see. But Friday night, 8:00 Pacific is when we'll talk about Furiosa. And then let's see if we have Versus set up here. No. Oh, we're going to talk about Planet of the Apes on
Nice.
Monday for Versus. Mike, plug away.
You can catch me right now. I'm cruising over on YouTube. I'm trying to get that channel monetized. So you can catch me youtube.com/@epicmike. I'm also over on Kick. You can catch me over there. Keep your eyes on Epicverse. I know a couple people asked in the comments, how can we watch your stuff? We have not released anything officially yet. Everything that we have is going to be on a website. The website that you see right now, epicverse.tv, is just a placeholder website. As we get trailers and teasers, we'll put them over there and link them over there. When the actual website's ready to go, will be the same day that we launch, and everything that we have will be on that website. You can watch all the stuff that we've been working on, and stuff like that. But I will keep everybody posted on when that's going to happen. So as of right now, just keep your eyes on the website. We also do a stream every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern over on the Epicverse channel. We just talk about whatever, and we do ridiculous tier lists about all kinds of random topics. Last week it was bears. So yeah, keep your eye on that. I'm kind of all over the place, but main thing is the YouTube and the Kick channel. You can catch me over there, and then Epicverse. Keep supporting that, because once we're ready to come out with it, I'll be everywhere talking about it. You won't be able to stop hearing me.
You'll be here
so,
talking about it as well.
Absolutely. So thanks so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining it. This is great. Appreciate you being there. Appreciate the 2,400 people watching us on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Your support is greatly appreciated. To everyone who left super chats, thank you. And I'm Alan Ng. You can catch my reviews on filmthought.com. My review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is there. Oh, we didn't review it, did we? Oh, damn. I'll just say first 2 acts are good. I loved it. Third act, we'll be talking about that third act. So with that, I think that's it. We will see you, and let's get out of here.